Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Straight Outta Stanton. Um, Sorry about missing the last week. We had some personal reasons not to show up. Not last week, the last um
Standing gossip.
yeah, this
Yeah.
Wednesday. We're not gonna talk about like any of the content that happened throughout the week. We're just gonna like double up on it next Wednesday. So um yeah.
Personal reason was that I was dying.
Mas was
I got the
yeah.
flu. I got the flu really badly.
Yeah.
So I've been like
But
totally
he's
out of
back
commission.
and alive and yeah.
Yeah.
Um Okay, so such a strange week. I'm actually gonna start with this, where last week so many things happened in Star Citizen because the PTU was open, and it was kind of surprising because like we expected things to happen because Invictus is coming, but we did not expect like I think there's like more than we expected in a way, and then you know. Hercules came, all of them came to the PTU, Tonks came to the PTU, it was like some other stuff and whatnot, and it was a super overhyped week. However, if you're like us and you don't play on PTU, that first like week or two while you're waiting for it to come to live, it's like this. It goes like up because you see new things and you're just like, come on, man! Like,
Yeah.
when do I
Yeah.
get to play this? And I know like anyone can go and play on PTU now, obviously. But I
Yeah.
just don't get the kick out of it. Like I just don't enjoy doing it. I don't feel like I'm doing anything for my account.
Yeah. Well,
You know what I
that's
mean?
it, right? Like, yeah, there's no persistence. It's just like, like you go in to play with the new toys, and then by the time that the game comes out, you've played with all the new toys.
Yeah, I want to
So
enjoy the toys when they come to life,
or
right?
the patch comes out rather, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, there's still been some hilarious shit that's been happening. But
Absolutely. So the whole Hercules tank shebang tonk, sorry, brought life back to Twitch category and YouTube videos and Twitter. People, as usual, we know Star Citizen content creators and players are very creative when you give them new tools, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So you can
Just
find many, videos and just the streams are being fun to watch, right?
yeah. And we'll obviously we'll end up going over like some of the favorites that we've seen on Wednesday.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's gonna be links and whatnot. And
Yeah,
hopefully, there's gonna be
yeah,
more. But like, just some of the things where people are using C2 as well in general,
yeah,
Hercules as like a landing platform for ships, in
yeah,
motion or taking off from it. And yeah, that's another thing. Like in Captain's Table, Paul was talking about like how it just became natural to land. That he was meeting someone in the verse and he was in the Pisces and he was just open the door. I'm gonna land inside, and he goes into the ship and there's a Tonk inside already and he parks next to the Tonk and that it's that easy. They just go together and overnight it just became a normal thing. Well, if you think about it, like in live and all this time before, like landing
yeah.
on
There's
another
the
platform is just not not a
well,
good
I mean,
idea.
like you could kind of do it with like the
890.
890 jump and stuff
Even
like
there,
that.
man, I had situations where I would
But
land on 890 in like what's the name? Um Titan, and it would not end up well. It just
yeah,
seems
yeah.
very, very smooth. Maybe
Well,
that's
and
because it's PTU, but I don't know.
I think I mean this is my take on it, but I think that stability that we're seeing is a result of the physics grid improvements that we've seen from ship to ship docking.
Sure. Yeah.
Obviously not perfect yet,
No,
but
but it's going the right
but it
way,
does
right
seem to be
direction,
just
right?
genuinely better,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
genuinely better for like vehicle docking and stuff like that. But yeah, you as far yeah, I guess as far as like what's been going on this week, it's definitely just been like a flood of Herc and Tonk
And that's cool.
posts. It is
Um
fun. I'm actually kind of glad of it because when the Hercules first jumped into game and I was watching like things about it, I actually was like there were just angles from that the Hercules like okay, I guess to rewind a little bit. have been waiting for the Hercules for a long time because I just love the way that ship looked in concepts and stuff like that. So finally seeing it in engine, there was like a couple angles where I was just like, man, and that just does not do it for me. But yeah, one of the benefits of having my social media streams flooded with screenshots of it is that it has been kind of growing on me. Like I've realized that there's just like a few areas where I'm not really satisfied externally, but other than that, I do still think it's a pretty ship. I know you don't it's not your favorite ship, but, like
Oh, I'm
but
glad they are in the
it
game, and I'm glad that you're,
yeah,
getting hooked on it because you want the ship.
yeah,
Um, no, I mean, I love. I listen. Even the ships that I'm like disappointed with or are
yeah.
not for me. I mean, Star Citizen just does such a good job with ships. Like in general,
Yeah.
except for fucking up
Well,
the
that's the thing.
lights on 85X.
Yeah. Oh my god, not this again.
But like I love I love having these ships in the game. Obviously, I
Yeah.
mean it's fucking amazing. So
I like that you don't have to, like, like, okay, so the Herc doesn't do it for you. That's fine. There's other ships,
oh,
and
100%,
I
yeah.
yeah, I think that's
And I
cool.
want to see them. Like I want to see something else than was caterpillars landing in areas where we usually get stuff to trade, and occasionally what's the name Starfarer um every now and then. And now you have like two new ships to see, which is it that's just nice. It just adds flavor to the game. So
Variety. Variety
yeah.
is the spice of Star Citizen.
So I kind of feel like the community and backer like base went from very blurry, like mood where like everyone's like, oh, nothing's happening, to yeah, I don't know, getting you toys. It's like,
It has put, like, a little bit of wind back into people's sails, even though I would say that it's probably very temporary. Like, we've seen this before with
of
any new
course,
new ship release or whatever, right? But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
the one thing I will say is, like every patch, it does seem to be that even though it seemed, and it is ultimately a pretty barren patch, there's still like there's little things that weren't necessarily announced or whatever that are
What are you?
they add something. But
Give me
well,
the
okay, the example I was
yeah.
gonna say, and this is, I guess, sort of news, was that like there's new commodities showing up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like that's nobody said anything about that.
Okay, well, yeah, we're
And
gonna talk about it in the news, but yeah,
it's not like game changing stuff, but it's just new stuff. Like
true. I just like the whole thing about that commodities journal page. We'll talk about it, but I don't know. I have my own theory about that, but yeah.
yeah,
Um. Okay, so with this, like, neither of us played a game. Maso was literally dying, so I'm glad he's back in the world of living. But even if you were not dying, I don't think you'll be like playing Star Citizen this week. I think
mm,
probably like me, you're gonna wait for PU. I'm the same.
well, that's exactly it. It's like I just said. It's like I mean, like, yeah, okay, I could go play PTU,
Yeah, it just
but
doesn't do
then the
it.
result of
Yeah.
that is just that I just play with all the toys before it actually can do something permanent for my account, like earn me some money or whatever. And yeah, just it's pretty rare that I jump into PTU personally. It has happened, sure, when I really
Yeah.
want to check something out, but like the only main thing, like I was saying, that I wanted
Well,
to
here's
check
the thing:
out
if
was
you did not have Hercules, for
Herc. So,
example, and you're interested in it, you would probably go and try it, right? But you
oh
have
yeah,
it,
yeah, for
so
sure, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I can watch streams and I've watched
yeah.
videos and stuff and seen screenshots, so it's not like I don't feel like I'm missing out.
True.
I still wanna fly it, but from what I've heard, I've kind of it I don't know if I'm gonna like flying it necessarily. I heard it's basically it handles too like, it's too
Too
light,
big. Yeah, too
like
big.
like
Too good.
most of the like most of the ships, so
Yeah.
but I'll still fly it when it
Man, I
comes
really
to live.
hope that that is
Yeah.
all because we don't experience the atmospheric pressure because we're missing those plates or whatever.
I think
Uh,
there's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
maybe.
there's
Yeah.
a lot. Like, for example, I really, and this is probably borderline imagine territory, but I really can't imagine that the stall mechanics are going to stay as easy as they are right now. Like right now, basically, you can basically get some altitude and then just go 90 degrees and just, even in a cargo ship, basically fire up through the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna stay.
I've been
Like I think it's gonna be much more of like a procedure to get out of atmosphere with these larger ships.
I've been playing a lot of Microsoft Flight Simulator last week and
Mm,
streamed it, and the game is full on sandbox, right? So you just like
yeah,
it's a sim you fly,
yeah.
but they do have two things that are like theme park. One is there's 24 landing challenges split in three
Mhm.
categories. One is like famous landing spots. The other
Yeah,
one is shit. I don't know. One is like high winds, and the third one I
yeah,
don't know what it is, but like it's oh epic. They call it epic. Like certain airports where like you have like a question mark above your head, like how is this an airport? And and it's funny that you mentioned stalling and all that because dude, like that's a thing. Like flying planes in the atmosphere, it's so hard, but it's so satisfying. Like, and then you like I almost made an emote where like I do something wrong and I try to lift my nose up and then this chick AI goes stall, stall,
yeah,
stall,
yeah,
stall, and then you start hearing like if you're flying Boeing, you hear this like tick 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 tick, and you're like, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, try to, and then you lose speed and you hit the ground and it's like black screen. You're like, oh my god, it's like
yep.
crazy shit happening.
That's the thing, man. Like I don't know if it'll get exact. Well, no,
Well, you don't.
I'll just
None of
well,
us want that to happen. Let's just
no,
be clear.
I'll just get that to get it right out there and say that that's probably not going to be the case in Star Citizen. But I do think that like the whole like getting off planet with some of the bigger ships, especially when you're loaded, is going to be something where like you're gonna have to do it right or you'll crash. And
Yeah,
uh
I just want to say,
and
like, I really want wheels on some ships, planes. Like, like
we're gonna do this again.
I
I mean,
just
I
no,
agree.
but different reasons. It's so satisfying because you get under so much. So I was like, some of these challenges have jets that I fucking hate flying, like 747, Airbus
Mm.
320. Like these are I don't fuck that, man. I want to like fly, acrobatic two seaters and the YOLO and light and. But then when I get so tense trying to like set it like to land directly straight on the airport and then we hear that like wee 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 like and
Yeah.
rolling
Oh
on the
yeah.
ground. It's
Like
just
with
so
the
it's
yeah.
so satisfying. You're like ah fuck
Yeah.
yeah dude.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I
and
I
then
I
there is like short airports, like and then like you land and you're like oh and you're braking, you're like oh no oh no oh no, and then you have to
yeah,
lift and like go again. It's like it's such an epic moment. I don't know. I want to have that in Star Citizen as well.
that is true actually. That would be I don't know, that would be really cool if like let's say for example, you have a C2. Um, you know,
Yes.
like right now, like everything like it's clearly designed for VTOL. All
Yeah.
the ships are designed to do VTOL, obviously. But like it would be cool because like in theory, what you could do if you had the ability to do a runway landing instead of a like a VTOL landing, you could in theory come down heavier, right? So
Yeah.
basically you could like load yourself up, go for a riskier landing. You'd have to obviously have like a runway to land on, but like that's the perks, right? Of having wheels on your craft. You could
Yeah.
basically go down overloaded, get those extra few SCU of cargo down, if you have a runway to land on, right? And
Bro-
ditto for takeoff. Like if you had the ability to kind of like get a run at a takeoff and utilize your aerodynamics to kind of get to
Man,
help you
it's this
help
is
you
what
off
I'm
the ground.
saying. Like these are small things. If you're flying small craft in flight simulator, it's not nuclear science, right? So you have your speed. Anyone
Yeah.
can fly a small,
Yeah.
two-seater.
An
So you
aurora.
have
Yeah.
your flaps, you have your speed, and you have rudder, and your like your stick, and that's it. And then you need to get to a certain speed, and then take off, and you have to fight the wind a little bit. But that is right. It's like 2-3 minutes of your time to take off and do something. It's so much more satisfying than holding space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm flying. I'm airborne.
Okay. Well, okay. To be very clear here, I am totally fine with most ships being able to do a VTOL takeoff and land.
Make it tricky to take off with VTOL as well. You know what I mean? Make it a
Yeah. Well,
success when you take off, or make it a
see,
success when you land. I don't. It doesn't have to be an
you know what actually
airplane. You
was,
know what I mean?
man, I wish you played during
I know. I
the
know. Yeah,
hover
I
mode
wish
era,
so as
because
well.
like
Yeah, that'd be
that's
cool.
literally what that's literally
I
what
see what you're
what
saying.
happened with that patch, right? Like you could just, in fact, actually the safest ways was to just basically lift straight off, because if you started to move around a bit, like that's where you started to actually kind of like slide and move around. And yes, it was much more difficult, and yes, it was buggy and wasn't and didn't work perfectly, but it did make taking off and landing feel more rewarding,
Yeah, I
because
want that.
you felt like you were in a vehicle that weighed a couple tons
It's a
that
small.
didn't
It's a
want to stay in
small.
the air.
It's
You
a
had to
small
keep it in the air.
free success feeling, right?
Well, and
Like
I
it's a
do I
tiny dose of dopamine that you can get in the game for free. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's why I constantly talk about dual universe, and
Yeah. Yes.
because
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
taking
Yeah.
off and
There you
landing
go.
in that game
It's a small win for
was
you.
tricky. It was
Exactly.
tricky, and like
Exactly.
and especially like when you're like not sure if you're gonna actually be able to have enough thrust to break Atmo and get into orbit. Like that, it felt so good when you're like, yes, I made it. You know what I mean? And I know that Star Citizen isn't going to be that, but I do honestly
Dude, we
still
don't
think
know,
that
man. We don't know.
the
Maybe
flight
they.
model I do think that the flight model is going to change to a point where it is more towards that than it is now. I mean, right now
That's
they
all I
flat out
want.
said that they hate the fact that you're basically just a floating camera.
Okay, that's fair. So that was my
So
next question. Like, do we know that that's not gonna look like that? If
yeah,
I'm open,
that's
and
why they put out
this is
hover
not
mode.
even a benefit of a doubt. I just believe that CAG has not only tech, but is that called ingenuity or whatever? Like they can make it fun, right? They
Yeah.
can they can. I believe they can make it fun. You know?
Well, and that's it, right? Like ultimately with hover mode, they they flat out said, like Dave Coulson specifically was like, we hate the fact that people can just basically hover nose down and the ship doesn't move around at all,
Yeah.
so that's why they put in hover mode in the first place. But after basically a huge outcry, because to an extent, yeah, hover mode, it was half baked. It needed to be, but that was kind of what they said. Is basically when they took it back, they said we're not scrapping the idea entirely. We're just going back to kind of like, to work on it some more.
You
So
know,
that's what I'm hoping.
here's an
I'm
idea.
hoping
This is imagine, but so and this is based on my gameplay experiences lately. I like flying Caterpillar again because she has such an issue taking off. Even when you're like
really.
in a hangar, yeah, yeah. Like you hold space for solid 20 seconds to get
I
off
didn't.
the ground.
They must have changed that, man,
Yeah,
since
yeah,
I
they
flew
did,
it.
they did, they did. And
Okay, cool.
so but what I want is you need all this power to start taking off, but then once I'm off the ground, if I let go space, she just stops there and she's fine. And I'm like
Mm,
so what I imagine if you had while you're like in the closed environment, such as hangar, if you had like when you're mining and you have that like green,
mm.
like what
Oh,
if
so you have to like keep your engine power in that.
so that you
Yes,
can
yeah,
hover, right?
yeah.
That'd be cool.
I
I
would
think that'd be cool.
that that was actually really close to how hover mode was, actually.
Okay.
because you could actually like okay, you know how right now basically there's the acceleration limiter and then, oh sorry, there's a speed limiter, but there's also a command in there
No
for
one is
acceleration
using
limiter.
acceleration
No one
limiter.
was using that. But with hover mode, you had to use that.
Yeah.
If you wanted to set your ship down because like control or like strafe down, that didn't work
Mm.
in hover mode. In order to get your ship to reduce in altitude, you had to basically dial that acceleration limiter down
Well,
until
that's
your
how the
ship
plane
started going.
works. Like,
Yes,
so people
exactly.
think that when you want to land a plane, you just go nose down and like
No.
crash. But the truth is, you gotta stay
Yeah,
leveled, right? So what you're doing, you're slowly reducing the power that you get from propellers or whatever. So and
yeah,
you're reducing speed and reducing speed throughout the laws of air movement and atmosphere and everything. Like it allows you to like drop down slowly. That's that feeling that you have when you're
yeah,
flying a plane and you're like that you either love or hate when your
yeah,
stomach reacts to it. That's what it is. Like your plane is slowing down and leveled, like just dropping down through the air slowly,
yeah,
and then you land. So yeah, that makes sense, man. I don't know.
yeah. So
To be
that's
fair,
what that.
it makes sense that VTOL exists and it can battle this in the future, right?
But it
But it's
doesn't
not
feel
fun.
good right now.
Yeah, yeah,
No, right
exactly.
now it feels like you're a floating camera. It doesn't feel like you know. That's the other thing too is like you know like there's your ship as soon as it takes off is just like rock steady. Like
Yeah,
there's no
well, yes, that's the
movement,
problem.
you know, there's no drift, there's nothing, you know. So as and that's again like I'm reasonably certain. In fact, they've said that they don't want that and they want it to change.
What
It'll
what if they
just
just
clearly it
removed
has.
VTOL? No, VTOL, coupled. Or if coupled mode actually like screwed you in certain ways.
Well, it
Like
already does kind of, but
how?
yeah.
I always fly coupled and I never have any issues with it.
You lose if you're coupled and you're dogfighting, doing like massive
Dogfighting
like
has nothing
maneuvers
to do
and
with
stuff like
takeoff
that.
and landing, right?
No, no, that's fair. But I just mean like it does have its disadvantages. It just doesn't really apply very much
But well, okay, sorry,
to
continue.
like
I
regular flying.
stopped you, but like, what is the disadvantage of
You lose
dogfighting?
speed big time. You lose velocity.
At the velocity
Um
we have too much anyways. You know what I mean?
yeah, but if you're in a competitive situation, keeping your speed but honestly, even if you're in SCM, like even if you were say locked into SCM, if you are yawing onto a target in coupled mode or pitching or rolling or whatever like to follow a target and you have your IFCS on, it will basically bleed the velocity from your trajectory
It's true, it does. Yeah.
as it tries to keep your ship
You kind of get
going
used to
where
that.
you're
I don't
pointing,
know.
right? You do, but again, like that shit'll get you killed if you're not paying
Here's the
attention.
thing. They need to make it so that you have to make this choice because right now you don't have to make
Yeah,
this choice.
yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, some people are playing. Like, if you're low flying, probably you're playing decoupled, right?
Or if you're
And if you're like
PvPing.
top 1% of BP poor people, then maybe you're doing it decoupled. Then maybe if you know that there's a difference, like maybe you're flying decoupled. You know what I mean? Like, but then there's I think like 90% of people or more are just flying coupled and they don't care about this. There's no reason to decouple really.
I guess. I
I
mean,
like okay,
I still
like
feel like if you're gonna be
overheating or something like that, like I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, that is actually what they said that they were gonna do with hover mode instead, is basically okay, so that's what they said is that, like, yeah, you can just hover in one place and your thrusters will do what they can to compensate for it, but your heat will build up hugely when you're sitting there.
Mm.
So, like, you won't be able to do that indefinitely. Though I still want them to go a step further and, like, say, like, for example, if you let's say you're in a Gladius or whatever and you nose straight down, like your ship's not going to stay just pointing straight down like that. Like I want it to be to a point where if your thrusters are not strong enough to keep you in that
To
position,
slowly fall
the
down.
vehicle starts moving, you know, and
Yeah.
you have to as a pilot actively compensate for that
It
or you
do you ever fly reclaimer?
no, actually I still to this day have not flown a reclaimer.
So I got the reclaimer for myself at some point, and I want. We talked about this. I wanted to use her as my daily driver and do
Yeah,
some
yeah,
because it's just fucking. I loved it. Like, I mean, it's the most impressive ship in the game for me. And has so many like fucking bugs and like holes where you can like fall out of the ship and whatnot. Unfortunately, but
yeah,
still, it's
yeah,
impressive. So I tried taking off from Hurston. We coupled. The moment you turn off VTOL, she just
yeah,
she just goes down, bro. Coupled, decoupled, doesn't fucking matter. It's just
yeah,
too heavy. And then if you get enough velocity going down, even if you turn VTOL on and you
yeah.
give it like full power, guess what? You're crashing, man. You're gonna crash. Like there's no way you can save it. And it feels good, bro. Like you gotta work
Yeah,
for your
I
shit. Like
agree. Yeah,
the problem is you feel like a stupid ass idiot wasting time with this ship, when you can go into Caterpillar and do the same shit like super easy.
sure. Yeah,
But
exactly.
if
Just
every
like
ship was
90
feeling like
degrees to
that,
just
maybe not to that extent, but
that's what I want.
yeah,
Because again, like it just it takes for me, it takes a lot of tedium out of the game. Like, and again, I know I constantly go back to dual universe, but like I said, I mean,
it's good. It feels good.
every time I loaded my ship up and tried to basically take off and go out atmosphere, it felt good. It was
Yeah.
rewarding. Ditto with coming down, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, absolutely,
when you
even
when you're
worse.
approaching that planet and you're just like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god," like you're just like sweating because you're trying to shed off your velocity. You're hoping that you got your aero brake maneuver just right so that you're not gonna slam into the ground.
And that feeling
Ah,
when you give up, you
it
know,
felt good. Yeah, just like, "Oh shit, this is gonna happen."
yeah, I'm
Like,
I'm I'm falling. That's it. I had that.
yeah.
I was landing in JFK yesterday with 747B in game, and I m- I miscalculated because with these things you have to like almost shut down the engine so you start like falling
Mhm.
down properly. But then,
Yeah.
yeah, and
If you
when I was
miscalculate,
playing this, I felt like whenever I'm flying, I feel like because sometimes you're approaching the ground and then you hear the engines start roaring and roaring and the plane getting like burst of energy going for that feeling like
yep.
and so that's him trying to like position the plane far enough so that it lands on the right spot on the
Yeah.
runway. And yeah, I just miscalculated and fell into the water because I'm used to flying small planes, and if I add a
Yeah.
little bit, of trust, I'm good. Because worst case scenario, I can just fly up and then do another circle and land. But with these big planes,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
can't. You
And that's
can't.
that's that's kind of it. Like, this is another thing where, like, obviously there's got to be a line so that the game stays accessible,
Mm.
but also rewarding. And I really hope that actually is the same way as in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like in your Aurora, like, not that big a deal. If you make a mistake, like, your computer will catch it,
I say
or
this forever, and you can even lore proof it because let's say
yeah,
Aurora and Mustang are AI. They have such a good AI for like cheap
well, and just
production,
compared
whatever. They can
to,
just autopilot because anyone can fly them, whatever. But
that's what
once you're in a
IFCS is.
freelancer, right, or God forbid, reclaimer,
Well,
it's
that's
a
the thing, like,
profession, right? Flying that ship is a profession, kind of, right? I
sure,
can't
and
just
like,
sit in your truck and drive around.
no, but like, I would consider like freelancers and cutlasses. I would say like that. Those to me are still along the lines of something that, like, pretty much like, obviously,
You want to
actually a
feel the
good example would
difference, you
be
know what I mean? Like it's
it'll
someone
be
driving a
like
van.
it'd be, yeah, exactly, a van or like a 5 ton compared to like a 5 ton truck
But
or
let me
whatever
tell you, like
compared
I've
to
been driving
like a
cars my whole
Civic.
life. And then I started working for DHL and they were like, "Hey, can you drive a van?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know." And they were like, "Okay, good. Tomorrow you're going to the next city driving a van." And I
Yeah,
was like, shit scared. And I came into a van. I was like, fuck, I have to unpark this from the garage with full of pillars and everything. And then I couldn't find my handbrake because it's on the wrong side, next
yeah,
to the
yeah,
door.
yeah,
And all these guys standing in front of me laughing there because they know I never had that experience and I'm
yeah,
not the only
yeah,
one. And then just driving when I'm in the open, like when you're flying that thing, Cutlass or whatever, of course you should feel like it's piece of
Yeah.
cake. But when you're landing, taking off, it's just like parking a van. It's
Well,
it's a
it
new
requires
experience, man. It's
it,
not too
it is a
hard,
new
but
experience, but it's still something you can do.
yeah, you
Like
can learn. Like,
if you've driven a car, you can
oh
pick that
yes,
up, right?
yeah, yeah.
Different story when you're
Well, I don't know if my
moving up.
sister would be able to do it. I mean, my
Yeah,
father
but
has to park her car, so you know what I mean.
oh,
Like,
well, okay. But that's the thing, right? Like obviously it is an additional level of skill,
yeah,
but
it's
it's
not
not like
crazy. Yeah,
jumping into a tractor trailer and trying to figure that out. Like how
yeah,
to use
yeah.
air brakes, how to use a non-sync
True.
synchro mesh transmission, right? Like,
And to make it
those are
clear,
sorts of
even flying a retaliator shouldn't be like not retaliator, reclaimer shouldn't be impossible, right? You shouldn't
well,
need
in
like pedals, 4 joysticks, and shit. No,
totally, totally.
but it
But
should be
like,
like more time investing, knowing where
yeah,
to like
if
tweak
you just
something and
jump into
whatnot.
that and try to go, you're probably going to crash. I'm
Yeah,
okay with that.
same.
You
Yeah,
know, like I'm okay with that. Like with the larger ships being just like an additional level of skill. I mean, yes,
not
it's
even
the
like
same
learning
ultimately.
curve more than skill, right?
Yeah, learning.
Skill is more like dogfighting. Flying a big ship is more of like taking off and landing, right? The rest is if you're
Yeah,
on the
see, I
highway, I can drive 18-wheeler. If you start it, I'm
sure.
park it,
Well,
and
that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is like ultimately the controls. It's like an 18-wheeler, steering wheel, gas, brake. Like
that's what I'm saying. And cruise control,
there's
and you're good.
there's more to it than that, obviously.
For sure.
That I would say like is where the skill comes in, but like
I
the
agree.
general controls, you could figure it out. If you ever had to land a reclaimer or do a complex maneuver or something like that,
Mm.
and there may even be more to flying it. Like for example, with an 18-wheeler, you can't just like clutch in and shift. Like it's not going
Nope.
to go into gear. Or
And God
when you're
forbid
braking,
going
for
backwards,
example,
man.
well, I'm
Right?
just saying, like even if you're driving on a highway, like in a
Oh
straight
yeah, yeah,
line,
yeah.
there's
Well,
still
of course,
more
there's
to it.
more like turning and whatnot. You
Yeah.
know.
Or like, what's that air pressure gauge mean?
Mm.
Like what does brake fade? Like that sort of stuff that like you're still gonna encounter during a regular
But it's something that
driving
you can
experience.
ease into with
It's something you
experience, right?
learn.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Um, but that's exactly that's where I hope that things end up as far as like the skill levels go. I hope that it's like anybody can pick up and fly, pretty much an Aurora, Mustang, etc. Little bit added skill involved potentially in knowing how to fly a medium-sized ship like MSR or below.
It's a curve. It
And
should be a
then
curve. Yeah.
yeah, and then, like, when you start getting up into the, like, Hercules, Caterpillar, and above, that's where you start to have to know your shit or you're gonna crash that thing, you know? Like,
Mm.
I hope that that's where it ends up. I From what I've heard from them after the hover mode thing happened, that's where they were it seemed like that's where they were going, but man, it has been a long time since we've heard anything about the flight model, and,
It's a
yeah,
bit scary, but yeah.
it is a bit scary.
Because
It
this
it
for me,
legitimately is a
I,
bit
I
scary.
I want them to take their time with this and whatnot because in the end, this is a game about flying spaceships, right? And driving tanks, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of driving tanks right now. Though I will say, maybe it's because I'm a North American, but, like, I've seen plenty of, like, videos about, with, like, multiple tanks driving in a line and stuff, and that's pretty cool,
It's
man.
cool.
It looks pretty cool. But
There's
yeah.
some power in I think they did really good physics. The only problem is like the tank. There was this video where they were like testing. It wasn't Cameral, it was someone else, but like literally Ursa rover versus a tank, and there's a rover with the repeaters, like 4 shots and the tank just explodes. So it's like
Yeah.
size 2.
Clearly they got a value messed up there then,
Yeah,
like you said.
yeah. All right. We're good
That
with
was a
the yeah, we're going to
that was
get
a
into the
tangent.
news. I don't yeah, it was fun. I like it. Okay, so what you were saying was like there's some new commodities showing up on PTU.
Yeah.
Um
I I just saw a tweet basically from Meyer basically showing like in the little section of your journal now where it shows those commodity updates, and there was like new commodities in there that I'd never seen before, and I want to know what that's about because that's kind of neat. I mean, that's one of
wasn't
the things I've
helium in
said.
game before?
Wait, helium? No,
Okay.
no. Those are all new commodities, and that kind of makes me go, all right, is cargo getting some love in 313.1? Because it's one of the
Mm,
things I've been saying for a long time is that we have these lists of commodities, but there's very few that are actually worth trading. Does this mean that I mean, clearly somebody went into that XML and dropped in some new commodities.
yeah.
Did the prices get some love? Like sell and buy destinations maybe get some love as well? Like
So there's a
that'd be
bunch
cool.
of there's
That'd
like
get me playing for the rest of 313.
souvenirs. I saw that I didn't add it to list because I didn't remember at the time. But souvenirs, stage
Consumer electronics.
equipment, yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is all. It all
Obviously,
feels like it's an event for
it
Invictus.
is. Yeah, it's obviously Invictus related, but,
I don't care.
like, if they've yeah, exactly, like, if they've done that, maybe they've done some other fix me
I
ups in the
just feel
background, that'd
like
be
they're doing this internally to like test something because it's never
mm,
in the notes. Remember the last patch we had this as well, or one of the first PTU patches of the current PTU patch where Mike was
what
talking
do you
about
mean?
like the whatever it was, and then he tried doing this and it was like he couldn't sell stuff. Like he bought food or something, he couldn't
Yeah,
sell it. And
yeah.
I kind of feel like they're just testing something that they need to have on PTU or PU, and that's why it's not in the notes. You know what I mean? But then obviously playing Star Citizen, people like dig into everything to find something out, and I'm
This
afraid
is
that this
exactly
might
what I'm about
not
to do,
have. Yeah.
because what I was gonna say is that, like, they've talked about they want their events to be dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, ultimately, if there's a festival like Invictus going on in the universe,
Yeah.
down the road, those sorts of things are going to require things like,
Oh, for sure.
electronics, like stage parts, like
Supplies. I
food,
mean,
like
yeah.
supplies, stuff like that, right? So an event happening somewhere in the universe should have kind of like a pyramid of stuff underneath
Mm-hmm.
it that
Yeah. Yeah.
has to happen in order to have that event happen, you know
And
what I
that's
mean?
what
So
Quanta is in essence, right? On
yeah,
on a small
exactly.
scale.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I mean, I know I'm digging into this and it's just
I
a
I
thing that
think you are.
that's happening in PTU, but yeah,
I
it
wouldn't be
was interesting.
surprised if they're like testing this internally for like next year's Invictus, but like,
I don't
adding
know, man. Like
things in.
they've already had Xenothreat, which basically proved the like multi-phase um
Oh, I,
kind
I
of
have no
events.
doubt that we could have something like this.
So
It's just that
what
they're
wouldn't
not
surprise
mentioning
me.
this in any patch notes. That is
True, but
confusing to
they're
me,
weird about that, man. Sometimes they just don't, and
I know, I
I
know, I
don't
know.
understand why.
Because
But
it's
like
open development, right? Okay, okay.
but like so basically what I'm saying is it wouldn't surprise me if Invictus comes out and then all of a sudden there are maybe like some missions that are popping up in your mission log, like,
That'd be amazing, dude. That would be
that
amazing.
basically Invictus
As long as they
celebration needs this,
pay
this,
like,
this,
competitively so that I have a reason to
Yeah.
do them.
Well, who
And it's
knows about
not
that,
about the
but
money, right? It's not about the money,
yeah,
just like about not feeling like why would I do this,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. But and if that
Oh,
wouldn't
you
surprise me.
know, you
That
know how
wouldn't
World of
surprise me.
Warcraft does it? What if they did that? Like they dropped the
Oh yeah, how
patch
you just have like a goal,
a week early and then we have to like,
Yeah.
oh my
Were
god, and
you
it has like because we
were
have
you
one
playing
server running with this. Like if you
for the
guys finish it,
Entourage?
like day early, we get Invictus a day early.
Ah,
But it'd be fuck, that
that
would
would
be
be fun.
cool. Then everyone would be doing it. Like we would finish in
Yeah,
like one day. You know what I mean?
yeah, totally, yeah. That's exactly what you remember the opening of the gates of
Do I remember?
Entourage,
I just did
whatever?
it like a few months ago again on
Oh,
on
really?
classic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Classic, yeah, I didn't know that they brought that back, but
Oh
yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah, like, you had to hit if you wanted to open the gates on your server, you had to hit those targets, right? So,
I don't think
that
they
was
can
grindy
do
as
this
fuck.
though because
No.
Invictus is like fixed,
It
date.
is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
But
I still it wouldn't surprise me to see like some of the like the cargo hauling and whatnot, like missions potentially being related to Invictus because it's literally what they said that they were going to try to do after Invictus was like use the stuff that worked with Invictus for ongoing events. So
Yeah, but we don't
who
know
knows?
like when these
No,
events
we
can
don't.
be like 7 years from now. So that's
Yeah,
the problem
totally.
with all that.
We don't know, but
Of course, they're using these assets for future. I mean, it would be stupid
yeah,
not to. But
seeing the new commodities and stuff makes me go like, I don't know, maybe we'll see something
it's good
like that.
news. I mean, there's no downside to this, right?
Yeah. No, there
Just
isn't really.
tempering your expectations is a new
Yes.
fidelity. Like this is the new thing
Yeah.
in Star Citizen
Temper your
creator.
expectations.
Yeah. If someone is, oh, we should
That's
talk to Tomato. So Tomato is making a new podcast. He should call it Tempered Expectations.
yeah.
If you're
I was gonna
listening, bro,
say like
just you can use it. I don't mind.
that should have been the subtext of what is Star Citizen.
Yes, yes, yes. Temp,
Star
but they
Citizen,
they need to
temper
do
your
like
expectations.
temper your expectations. Like very, like.
Yes. Yeah. That
Oh
should have been
shit!
it.
All right. So we had ISC this week. Oh my god, there was a lot of jumbled up info. That is very
Yeah.
important info, and
And
it
there
had
wasn't
it had the it
enough of
had the
it.
potential to be fucking top 10 ISC ever, right? Because it touched on so many important things.
This is like you remember last week how they did an ISC about scanners and then they did an SCL about scanners?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this week should have been.
Mm-hmm. So like
But instead we got
expand on that and
ISC.
like explain.
Yeah, because like well, I'm just going to jump right into it, I guess. Like
Yeah,
so ISC was about capacitors and about operator modes, two
massive,
potentially
huge.
game
Yeah.
changing mechanics,
That we
and it
don't
was
know
just
much
like
about, right?
we don't know much about. And in the video it was like they brushed over it a little bit. We saw a little bit more than we knew, but like they didn't go into depth about anything about either of them, operator modes or ISC. They were pretty much just saying, here's what they are. And then there was
And
no
then and
SCL to follow up.
yeah,
So yeah, like that was I don't know. I was a bit there you go. I didn't temper my expectations because they teased this last week, said that
mm-hmm.
the next ISC was going to be about capacitors and operator modes, and I was like, oh
Finally,
yeah,
right? Something very
this is
important.
shit
Yeah,
I wanted to know about, and then
same.
it just wasn't really. I mean, it was better than nothing, but like man, if there was a week for them to drop an SCL with like a deep follow up on it, this was it, and they didn't do that because
No,
SCL
which is
was
this just proves that last
boring
week was
art.
one off, right? It was
Yeah.
just like a coincidence, almost.
Yeah. So, that's a
So
little bit unfortunate. I mean, there was some cool stuff in there, but
yeah,
yeah.
let's touch on that. So capacitors. We talked about capacitors before. You were trying to explain to me why it will change the game, which I do not bite really. I use capacitors in other games.
Mhm.
Not a huge fan. I don't think they bring much to the game, but there is definitely potential to it. And
Yeah. They're doing things differently
yeah,
slightly
true.
than the other capacitors, that I've played,
I'm not
in
surprised that
other
they're
games,
they're
but
changing the game.
yeah. Part of me and this is gonna sound really weird coming from me because I like the complicated mechanics, but, like, what we showed on screen to me looked like maybe
The
overcomplicated
clutter on this new UI,
clutter,
right?
yeah,
It's a new UI in Gladius,
yeah.
and there's
And I
like so much fucking information. I think there's more information than a fucking jet pilot has in their helmet.
I will say, like, it's probably I mean, obviously, we're seeing, like, early renditions, and it's possible to be pared down, but it did seem like maybe too much. But, okay, just to if you didn't watch it, basically what they've said is that their version of capacitors, unlike games like Star Wars Squadrons and stuff like that, where
ED,
we're just where, like, I haven't played ED, but Star Wars
same. It's the same
Squadrons
as
like, you divert power to, like, engines, weapon, shields, and you get, like, faster weapon recharge, more weapon power, etcetera. Ditto for,
speed
like,
boost,
engines. Yeah,
shield
engine
charge.
power gives you yeah, exactly. So in this, it sounds like it's a little bit different in that you're basically just redirecting power to a system that
Le-
you want prioritized, but it is a finite amount of power. So your capacitor holds X amount of energy, and where you direct that power to determines where what like if let's say you divert that extra power to weapons, you would get a boost of like you know uh added added shots that you can fire before you're dry. But once those capacitors are done, there's no more power in them, and you have to wait for that to recharge so that you can direct it to other systems.
Okay,
So
this when you
slight
explain this, it sounds the same, but it's not. So
it, yeah,
in the other
it's not
games, I
really.
guess you have different power source for each option capacitor. So let's say
Yeah,
you
like
have guns,
it's
shields,
essentially
engine, right? And if you can boost one at a time, if you boost
yeah,
shields, then they deplete. You can boost engines or right or weapons,
exactly,
right?
yeah, yeah.
While in Star
Or you
Citizen we
can
have
divert
one
yeah,
source of
one
power,
power
right?
source. Yeah,
So if we boost weapons, when that's
and
like
use all
done,
that power.
yeah, you can't boost your speed, which makes it a tactical decision. But
Yeah, yeah.
you know what fucks me up? And I know you like what they say, but again, from my personal experience, I don't buy this. Is that they're saying that this will change positional combat?
I don't think it will.
I think that's
I mean,
fucking BS, man. Like, there's no way.
I think it'll help flat out. Like, it will help because
Man,
frankly, like, if you run through your weapon power, for example, your only option at that point is to evade until you have weapon power back. Because otherwise you're just basically nosing towards them and
I
nothing,
I feel like you're
you know?
always like you're never gonna use this except like if you're running away and that's it. You
I
know
don't
what I
know.
mean?
I don't know. I
Because
mean,
like
I think
it's
you're
like
right in that
risk no reward almost.
I think that they're putting too much emphasis on this. Like, I don't think this alone will all of a sudden make it so that there's positional combat in Star Citizen. I think it'll help,
No, it
but
will. I don't think. I just can't picture in my head how. There's only one thing. There's one thing that can make Star Citizen positional combat game, and I don't think they're gonna go for that. And that's
like going back to like an ED sort of flight model where it's more plane based rather than like 6 degrees of freedom.
no. It's about targeting, man. It's like you need
Mm,
to. There can be no auto targeting. Like you would
mm,
need to like when you target the ship. It needs to matter where you shoot. That's the only thing. Like there can be
yeah.
no except for missiles that you can outrun or kill, there has to be literally no assist on weapons. That's the only way we can have
The thing
positional
is,
combat.
the problem with that right now is that we're not close enough to each other. Like, and that's the other thing. Like right now, there
Oh, that's
you
a good thing. That's what they
okay,
touched.
let me
Sorry.
let me finish this
Yeah,
one
go for it.
thought.
Go
Let me
for it.
finish this one thought. Like right now, there's no positional combat because like even if you are close, you're both just basically taping your fire triggers down and pointing at each other. So where are you going to aim when you're both nose to nose? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like so, unless there is a mechanic in this game that makes it so that one ship has to break away and stop facing at their target, there's not going to be any positional combat. So that's where I say that like the capacitors could help to facilitate positional combat simply from the fact that like I said, you can't tape down your fire triggers at each other anymore.
Okay, sure, but like,
You
what,
know
what, what prevents you from like being still nose to nose? Because that's the safest way for
why
you to
would
fight.
you? Because if you don't have power and the other guy has weapon power still,
Yeah, but
you're
if you
just
turn,
basically
yeah, you give them like broadside where you're more vulnerable. Why would you like fucking expose yourself?
well, because you still have the ability to use your boost, you still have the ability to use, like your mains to try to get velocity to change your vector to
Okay, let's talk.
place
Let's
somewhat
let's
more
add
more
something.
evasively, but
Let's add
you just don't
something.
have the extra power.
Let's add something from the IC into this equation. So I'm not
Okay.
abandoning this, but
Okay, sure.
they said that right now, when I agree with this 100%, like right now, the way the weapons work is an absolute shit show.
Yeah.
And like when you add all this to the capacitor gameplay and potentially like everything else, where they said laser weapons, right? energy weapons will drain your power because right now you're gonna just shoot forever.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
adding capacitors for everything, but also they're adding your power draining if you're shooting constantly repeat like energy
Yeah.
repeaters.
Yeah.
So this means that you will have limited amount of shots before you
Yes.
have to regain
Yeah.
power, right? So if they did this and then ballistics actually had that's how you solve it. If a ballistic round is just useless after 2 kilometers, you gotta come close.
Mm.
Like shorter range on ballistics because they can go brrr, like you don't care about the energy and you can
Yeah.
have quite a lot of ammo, but I mean you can run out, like that's the downside, right? But
Yeah.
if they can only do something when you're like super close to the target, while the laser weapons have range advantage, but then if they run out of power, I can close the gap while you can't shoot, right?
Hmm.
So in that case, I can see maybe some more interesting. Plus the
Yeah.
capacitor for
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like, honestly, frankly, the way they should limit ballistic ranges, in my opinion, is by projectile speed. Um, Basically, laser weapons should have a very, very fast projectile speed. Ballistics, not so much. That would basically mean that in order to land hits with a ballistic weapon, you would have to get closer because the travel speed of
But
that projectile isn't fast enough for you to actually make hits
okay,
from like anything over a 2 kilometer distance.
I agree. But also, I'll take World of Warships for an example. Let's say you play a battleship, you have armor piercing shells, and range of your
Yeah,
ship is insane, 20 kilometers, right?
yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
playing Lenin, and from 20 kilometers, you can hit that Iowa on the other side of the map.
Hmm.
If you penetrate, the damage will not be insanely good.
Yeah,
However, if you have the same situation, so you're firing armor piercing 4 kilometers away from that Iowa and you hit the citadel, you will kill that shit. Like the closer you are, more damage the ballistic,
yeah.
ammo does, the more, like more
Uh,
chance of penetration, stuff like that.
from a realism perspective, that doesn't really hold weight in space because
I
there's nothing
know.
slowing those
I
projectiles
know.
down.
I know.
But yeah,
I
like
know,
you're
but
right in that
gamifying,
like
like we
the
need
range, yes, the range, like affecting the range, however they do it, of of projectiles versus laser weapons would be a way to kind of like
wait, but
again like
you're not
differentiate
correct
things.
though.
Hmm,
Now that I think about it. Sorry for
what?
interrupting, but there's this speed that helps you with the penetration, right? But also
Yeah.
the ballistic ammo has a fuse, right? So after the
Oh yeah, like
penetration, right?
if it's an explosive round for sure. Yeah.
Because they can play with this. Like you can hit the ship from like
Sure.
20 kilometers
They
away in space, but it's gonna bounce off, right?
You know what? Honestly, they do kind of like there already is a bit of that
I know
with like
with
for
the
example
cannons.
ballistic repeaters too. Like ballistic repeaters, I don't even bother opening fire with those until I'm under 2 kilometers
Mm.
to a target because the accuracy, like the spray on them, is just too big to like you're just wasting ammo unless you're I don't know like
Do we have too
at
many
any rate
guns for your ships?
no. I think the amount they have right now is actually good if they
Or
actually
maybe
put some effort
25?
into put if they put in some effort to really make them feel different. Because like, on paper, they're different, like, the range, for example, between an attrition and a badger or something like that,
Hmm.
the fire rate's slightly different, the damage is slightly different, but it doesn't really feel different when you're firing it. I think
Well,
that
that's
if
yeah.
anything, is more of what they need to do is focus on making the weapons feel different. Uh, Hell, even just changing the sound or the laser color goes a long way
Hmm.
to making something feel different. And
100%.
it
Yeah.
used to be that way too. That's the weird thing. Like way back in the day, like the M4As, M5As, those like laser cannons. Those used to be a green laser. It used to be red. I don't
But
know why they changed it.
hear me out. Like, what if would you be okay? Would you be okay with like we having only three energy and 3 ballistic weapons all of a sudden, and like with very distinct differences, so that everyone has to use one of these 6 weapons,
Maybe.
and then they can like fine tune these 3 weapons, right? Which is
Right,
like
and then
one cannon,
expand
one
them from there.
repeater, one Gatling, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 4, okay, with the and one scatter,
You
right?
know what though? Like, I really think, I think ultimately, I think we're jumping the gun right now. I think capacitors is a good way to jump into it, because that does add something that could help to differentiate between the guns. And then from
Maybe.
there, yeah, I mean,
But it feels like it would
maybe
be
you're
so
right.
much
Like,
easier to like fine tune it with like only one weapon per type.
yeah,
And
you're
then you
probably
can
right.
make
Yeah,
slight differences with like
yeah,
colors, feel, maybe a little bit of
yeah.
damage versus velocity or something.
Especially, you're especially right with like right now, like the ballistic cannon and autocannon. Like, there's, what the fuck, like, like,
Dude, I
you know,
look at
like,
these weapons and I'm like, especially
what's the difference?
knowing their numbers are all over the place always. So and then you go
Yeah.
and like check whatever meta is and like, okay, put that in. It works this patch.
But well, and then the frustrating thing is that, like, some of those guns are so bad, you literally you'd never want to use them. Like,
Yeah.
they're, like, like the shredders versus long swords versus,
Mm.
like those are just guns you don't use because they're just
People
bad.
use them if they're stock on some ships, and there's like a lot of players who never change their guns. But other than that, you will never buy these guns.
Yeah. But I think you are like, there's definitely something to be said about, like, paring things down to a point where
Right.
they're
So
just focusing on getting them to feel differently so that
yes,
they can work on
and
balance
I'm
and
not
then kind of
saying
expand them from there.
we should have less guns
Yeah,
in
permanently.
the exactly. So
Yeah.
I just feel like it's too early for this variety of options where the options are all over the place. Like it's just like
Yeah.
fucking cluster. It's a
Well,
clusterfuck. You know.
and here's the thing too, like, I think there's a group of people who would probably say, "It's alpha. You don't balance anything in
E-
alpha." And that's fair in normal
exactly
game
because of
development
alpha,
circles.
though.
In games of norm, well, that's the thing, like, something where you're basically focusing on balancing would be something you do closer to beta, but that's in a situation where that's in a more traditional kind of game, right? Right now we aren't. We're playing the alpha. Like, there are people who are full-time playing the alpha. So,
Mm.
like, I don't think that it's wasted resources to do
And
like
they
what you were
want
saying and
people to
focus on
play,
something. Yeah, and
right?
focus on making the game, like you said, feel more dynamic, feel like there's more of a difference between the guns that you're using.
They also feel like
Being
right
able to kind of,
now the feedback that they get from us playing the game when it comes to guns is almost as clusterfuck as we feel with the guns. And I know there's gonna
yeah.
be like several players who know all these differences and they're like, no, this is good, whatever. I know what's the best in the current iteration, whatnot. But keep
It's
in
not
mind, like,
enough.
there's a lot of people who have no clue what the fuck is happening. And
Exactly, and that's why, like, see, the way that I've understood how they get their data for weapon balance is just by looking at the stats from the universe and seeing what is killing what. You know what I
which
mean?
is
And that
nonsense. There's like too
it is
much.
it is it is nonsense because, like you said, there are people who have no fucking clue and are just using whatever. You know
You
what I
want
mean? Like, so
Here's the thing,
the
I
data
never
that you're
overclock my
getting.
weapons, for example. So of
Yeah.
course no one's gonna kill me, but does that mean that my weapons are worse than his? No. There's just no downside to overclocking. He does it, I don't do it because I know there's gonna be downside to it once it happens, that when I'm gonna start
Well,
using it.
arguably, there's a downside now too, to be honest, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Come on. People enter their ship and the first thing they do go to MFD and like overclock, 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 overclock.
Mm, yeah, okay. It depends on what, like, for example, like, there are certain weapons, like, for example, if I mount a size 5 on a Vanguard and I'm just doing PvE,
Mm,
I don't overclock a thing. It overheats way too
yeah.
fast. It's just, like, maybe in PvP because you have to really take
Yeah, yeah.
advantage of the width
But
that you're
that's where you
given.
get data from. Like, are you talking about data that we get from PVE? Seriously? Because
Well, that's the thing. I don't think they really have a method to parse that,
oh
right?
my
So
god, that would be. Oh, I hope they
I
do.
think mostly
Holy
what
shit.
they're doing is just like
Maybe that's
is well,
why
maybe there
number
is.
of
I don't know.
PVE
But
ships are limited. Like models, you don't see that many ships in PVE.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
then,
at any rate, yeah, like the data they get right now from weapons and stuff, it does seem to be like it's something that they can just get passively. So I guess there's some benefit to that, but it's definitely like you can see the changes that they've made have been reactionary when something is so overpowered that it's literally dominating their data, but but it's definitely not an accurate picture of like balanced gameplay. They would have to do something way more focused.
yeah.
So in order to get any real data. And yeah, I don't know. I think you're right there in saying that like if you pared the number of weapons down and then made them legitimately really different, I think that would be a good step.
I mean, I
But
think
I
overall, you would give a player base a chance to understand more about what's happening, and therefore you
yeah,
get the better feedback, kind of. So
well, that is something where I think that the capacitors are a good first step personally because that does give you it as a player, it just gives you something, right? Like it's if you're like, oh, when I pull the trigger twice with this gun, it fully depletes my energy. Like that automatically gives you
yeah, yeah. But the
feedback
problem
as a
also
player.
is the game is just more clutter, and then changing
Yes,
weapons is so time. It's a time sink, you know.
it is a
So
time
if
sink,
I had all the
especially
weapons at my disposal, which should be a thing, by the way, because then people would play around with weapons. But if I have to go to a new Babbage every time to
yeah.
buy weapons where I can get stuck in a fucking elevator, and
And
you want
that's
me to
that's
test this, well, guess what? I'm gonna buy whatever is on PO
Well,
because
and that's to say nothing of the fact that there's no UI for what weapons do what.
Yeah,
You have to go to a
third
third
party,
party
yeah.
website to even figure that out, and even then, it's not super clear.
We're gonna plug someone here. If you're wondering about these things, Subliminal is a person who breaks it down
Mm.
amazingly on his
Yeah,
YouTube channel and Reddit.
yeah,
So check him out. He's amazing. But that's not the solution, right? Just like
no,
Galog is not the solution to trading, which again, someone takes a lot of time, you know, trying to make it work because the game doesn't. And yeah, I just don't understand why do we. I understand not having ships because they make money selling ships, right? But why why don't you have like I don't know, 4 of every gun in the game in your inventory?
yeah.
So that you can
Well, I
like
know why.
why?
I know
Tell me.
why, and that's because they want you to fly around. Like that is literally the point. Hopefully crash the game, hopefully break something, hopefully encounter a bug so that it generates an error
And
report.
most certainly have Alt F4, like
Yes,
because
and most certainly an Alta 4. Yeah. Yeah. Or also maybe you're right. Maybe it does just mean that people are just buying whatever's there instead of necessarily going and hunting down that meta. Which I mean that in and of itself kind of has benefit because then you are having people using a broader array of weapons than they would otherwise because it's just a pain in the ass to fly 40 minutes to go get a gun. I don't know. I don't know. This is me playing devil's advocate
yeah,
here,
I
and,
know,
and
I
not
know.
even really devil's advocate now that I think about it. More critical,
I
but
mean,
yeah,
like the PTU dropped, and I watched Noodle go 7 times to New Babbage, right? 7 times, and then he switched the game.
yeah.
Is that the solution? Because
Well,
he
that's
knows what the
PTU,
best
so
gun is, right? He knows what. No, it was like the last patch when it dropped 312,
oh,
3
okay,
whatever we're playing now, 313.
okay,
And it was like on the live server, and
yeah,
he was crashing. He was stuck in New
yeah.
Babbage. He like then had to reset account, then have to like go again. Then holy shit, because he has to buy there. What is that like? How does that help anything?
It
It
doesn't
takes
really.
an hour to
I mean,
get your ships at. Oh my god.
to be fair, it did generate probably a lot of a lot of crash data,
New crash
but
data.
it's not good for your game though.
Like it's been happening like that for a year. I don't know, man. We all know
Yeah, yeah,
it's not new data. I
no,
don't know. Anyways, all right. So
yeah.
that was IC.
Well, sorta. We didn't
Oh
actually
yeah,
talk
the
about the
operator
operator
modes.
modes, which again, eh,
So
there
confusing,
wasn't a
dude.
lot of wasn't a lot of information here, unfortunately. Besides the fact that we found out that when missile operator mode comes in, if you're in a single seat fighter, you're not going to be able to use missiles or guns, you have to choose between them, which I'm not sure how I feel about that.
It shouldn't
Part
make
of me
much
is like,
difference, right? I
mm,
have you thought about this in like the actual situation where
I
missile
absolutely am using missiles and guns at the same time. And well, okay, actually, no. To be
not
fair, I
anymore.
haven't. Not anymore. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
Because
Since
your
there's that,
guns are closer range, missiles can't lock that close anymore anyways. And then
which
plus
in
on
and
top
of
of that, when
itself,
you
I
get the
don't really like.
capacitor, right? While you're charging the capacitor, you can like fly away and use missiles. Maybe I think it's gonna like kind of. There's a potential for this to be like a puzzle that just clicks in. Like you
Maybe,
know.
yeah. Ultimately, I'm more excited about. Oh my god! I had my window open. The door just slammed.
I
Please
thought it
don't
was a
blow over my
cat.
green screen.
You're good. You're good.
Um, what I was gonna say is that, at least the one thing that I did really like hearing about in this section was that now the missiles are officially updated to be using
Flight
the
model.
accurate flight model.
Yes.
Oh my god, that's been way too long.
Although
Um,
I'm gonna miss those like videos of like missiles
doing the
going crazy, dude. That's like pure content, bro.
so that's cool.
Ah,
They have a finite amount of fuel now, which means that
you can outrun them.
now you can outrun them, you can outmaneuver them. They did say that basically if you manage to outmaneuver a missile and it shoots past you,
It's a
it's
slow. It's a
probably not going to have
yeah,
the fuel to turn around and come back at you,
yeah.
which is cool because as much as countermeasures are part of gameplay and they're a good mechanic, fuck man, in these sorts of games, nothing feels better than deking out a missile and just being like, haha,
To be fair, people do
motherfucker.
it already, right? So, but
Yeah, sure, but it's like the flight system on them is so buggy that it's like
yeah,
maybe you outmaneuver it, maybe you
you never know
didn't,
what's happening,
you
right?
know?
So yeah.
You never know what happens. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel as good. So that's something that was revealed. And also they did a bunch of cool shots of like the different phases of so you got the missile like boost phase where it basically just gets up to speed and then it
Oh yeah.
goes into its next phase which is like target tracking, and then its third phase which is the terminal phase where it basically just goes into like hit the target mode. That's cool. I thought that was cool. I was glad to see that.
I have
But
split opinion about this, but I need it in game to figure
hmm,
out if it's good or not because I kind of feel like again it's like complex in order to be like just for the sake of being complex,
maybe. I mean,
and it's
ultimately, I
gonna
don't
just
think we're going to
create
see it
more
very much, right?
weird interaction.
Maybe, but they there was that one scene close to the end where they were showing like in the debug mode the different like trajectories that the
Mm-hmm.
missiles were
Yeah,
following and stuff. And if ultimately if they do this right, which it probably won't right off the bat, it'll probably be broken as
that's
fuck.
fine.
But if they do it right, we shouldn't even notice all that shit, like the boost phase, the maneuver phase, and the terminal phase. It should just be something that you just learn as a
Yeah, but
pilot
like boost
how
phase,
missiles
maneuver
behave.
base, and then what? It bounces off the ship if it doesn't get to a third phase or
Well,
something
I
like
don't
that.
know.
Can you like
Like,
close the gap and the missile just like yoinks off you?
I don't think so because it sounds of things is like that's all dynamic, right? Like, so the first phase is absolutely just get up to speed, but it is possible that like if you are good enough to know how missile behavior works, you could like potentially charge at somebody with the hope of like making that missile overshoot kind of a thing. Like before it even gets to a point where it can maneuver to get you,
Why not
it's
just hit the
accelerated
missile
past
with
you.
your ship before it arms?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if you could because like that terminal phase where it's going into target mode, like that's proximity based. Like that,
Yeah, but
like if it,
it's you can lock on missile. You can see where it is.
what do you
You
mean?
can lock on missile now. You know that.
Lock
Like
on missile now.
so let's say you and
Oh,
me
so like targeting a missile.
yeah, and you can shoot
Yeah,
into
yeah,
it
yeah,
right now
yeah,
in game. So you can
yeah.
lock on, target that missile, and then fly straight into it. And if it's not in the terminal phase or whatever the
No,
last
see,
phase, can you like
well, see, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like that terminal phase will happen whenever you get into range of that missile. It doesn't matter what phase it's
that
in.
makes no sense. That makes no
Sure it
sense.
does.
That
So
has to be
basically,
timed, right?
why?
Because you need first two phases to happen for the third one. Like it's a chain
But the
reaction.
first two phases, like the first phase is just basically accelerate. That's
Sure.
that's the phase, right? Like, I don't see there's any reason why a missile wouldn't necessarily be able to explode even when it's in its accelerate mode if you got in the way of it.
because
Like, what?
you
Maybe I mean,
it's
who
like
knows, right? Like,
it's not
I'm
like
just
getting to
talking out
speed
my
where
ass.
it activates or something like that.
Yeah, but like, but the where the missile arms doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how
Well,
fast it is. It's just like its priority system,
we don't
right?
know,
It's
but
like,
maybe, yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like, we're literally both were just
yeah,
talking out our
yeah.
ass here, just like what we saw. But
I
like,
think most of
yeah,
this, when I talk about this, I have like the extremely insanely complex World of Warship system.
mm,
We're like how what arms and whatnot. It's crazy.
right.
Where
Yeah,
with
I don't
torpedo,
know.
like right. So I'll tell you right now, like a torpedo, if you're like if so, the torpedo has that mechanic in World of Warships. You drop it and it starts accelerating, but it's not armed yet. So if I see a guy close to me with torpedoes, I'm gonna go straight into torpedoes, and they're just going to bounce off me.
Yeah, and
But
yeah.
if
So
they
maybe
arm,
that's
if
the
I
case.
do that, I'm gonna die because if I miscalculate, and there's no, it's just like a sense, like
Yeah, I actually don't know. Like, do missiles today? I thought they armed pretty much as soon as they left the rack.
I don't know.
But
I don't know, but maybe it's just for the sake of gamifying it again. Like it's very
maybe,
important for the game to feel good.
yeah, I don't know. At any rate, it was pretty cool to see like missiles hopefully working properly. So that's one of the good things of operator modes. But the other things, again, like they talk about how for multi-crew, they want operator modes to be basically the different screen MFDs you're looking at. So
Hmm.
like scanning is an operator mode, mining is an operator mode. In theory, they didn't talk about this, but in theory, like engineering would be an operator mode. But again, we got no information on them. It was just like this is what operator modes are, sort of,
Man,
and here's missile operator mode.
I see this as like forced multi
Yeah,
crew.
it, I hope it doesn't end up that way. Let's just leave it at that
It's
because
like,
like
oh,
you're right.
you have
Yeah,
a
but in
freelancer. Well, you need someone for a scanner, and
well,
that
but this is
person
the
sits
thing. Like
there and is like, okay,
in
I'm
theory, you
scanning.
wouldn't. At least the way that they explained it was that was that the option was there, right?
Mhm.
So like you as a pilot can go into scanner operator mode, but now you're in scanner operator mode instead of in flight mode, which means like you can do it, but it would be handy to have a second person to be able to do it at the same time as you're flying. Which like obviously right now we have scanner mode. You can do it when you're flying.
I
You
no
have
no
to do
I
it when
I'm
you're flying.
aware of that. But here's the
But
thing,
like,
like not
yeah.
in I just let so this is my let's give them
Mm,
benefit of the doubt, but like
mhm.
very much tempering my expectations because
I think I
if
know where you're going with
if
this.
I
Yeah.
can do it,
Yeah, why would you have a second person to
not
do
only
it?
that, then that second person will do
What
half
are
of
they
what I'm
doing for them?
doing.
Yeah, what are they doing for the
Exactly.
most?
Like what's their
Exactly, yeah.
gameplay? Like again we go back to like, well, we can sit and talk together.
Yeah. So what in my mind, like, where I hope that this goes is that in a ship, let's say like a freelancer, um, there are there's enough mechanics in making that ship fly and do its full job that having two people is beneficial is more beneficial than trying to do it all yourself. Not that you couldn't, but so and that's ultimately where I'm just hoping
And
they end up.
fun at the same time.
That's the thing. Like that's the thing. It has to be fun. And right now I don't really see
Mm-mm.
that. I can just basically cross my fingers and hope
That
that
they're
they make,
smarter than us, right? Which they probably are, but
yeah,
you know what
and
I
that
mean.
they see more than us. Well,
Yeah, well,
obviously they
that's what
see
I'm.
more than us,
Yeah, I'm
but
not talking about intelligence. I'm talking about like
yeah, that they have a better
smarter
picture
in
of
like
like
their
how it's gonna end up.
hindsight, and all that. Like,
Because you're right in that like right now, if all I could do as a co-pilot is basically scan pulse or read a scanner, like that would be fucking boring, except for just the social aspect.
here's the thing,
Um,
though, where we might be wrong, or me personally is, and I talked about, sorry, I thought about this a lot today. Um, everything we take into consideration when there's something new coming into the gameplay is through the prism, at least I do, of empty verse and empty
Mhm.
planets, right? So
Yeah,
I start
yeah.
thinking about this through like ground vehicles where I'm like, fucking, it doesn't matter, you know. And I was like, wait, what if there was, you know, how in MMOs you stumble upon red names, you have to deal with them, you know, all the time. So if we actually had animals that we have to like encounter, or random like ambushes or stuff like that, then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, yeah, then I might need you to, you know, use the guns on Ursa Rover, right? Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then if that's like a random encounter that can happen at a given time, okay, then there's right. Same in space. Like what happens? It's like the empty fucking space, and I'm like,
Well,
what I can't do like because I go to a point where I am going to encounter an enemy, and I know exactly what's gonna happen then. So
yeah, yeah,
my
exactly.
view of the whole picture is
Yeah.
skewed, right?
Not to mention the fact that, like, as far as, like, the mechanics that make your ship go, right now, it pretty much just does itself. Like, there's very little that you have to do to make your ship go. You know what I mean?
I don't feel that's
And,
gonna change much in space.
well,
Maybe not more, but in space,
here's where we were like, going back to where we were talking about initially, where, like, smaller ships, yeah,
yeah.
you're probably right. Like, like
Well, that's my
the
gameplay.
most
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
minor alterations to the ship and stuff like that. But when you start getting up in the ship classes, like to a freelancer, for example, then maybe there's a little bit. I'm hoping, and this is me again doing imagine, but like I'm hoping that it's like, like there's enough involved in, let's say, engineering, like in keeping the systems operating at peak functionality. There's enough there that that it would be beneficial to have somebody monitoring that while you are doing something else.
Dude, what
But
are we going to do
but
with
right now we're looking at it through that prism, like you said,
yeah.
of like, a ship where the like engineering is like overclock or don't overclock or like move the little
There is no
triangle around.
engineering space.
Exactly, yeah. Or like repair, for example, there is no repair. So, that second, where it might be beneficial to have that second person to run back and patch up a hole in a hull or something like that. I mean, we don't see that because we don't have that. It's just basically a ship that basically flies itself. You kind of point it in the direction and
Hmm.
that's it. So I think that's kind of the same situation as like, you know,
This just so when I started back in the game, this just reminded me of that. There were talks about what you are going to do. Because when I started playing, I was like, okay, this game is beautiful, man, and the ships are great,
yeah,
and you know,
yeah.
but the first thing that I encountered where I wanted to like just erase myself from existence was jumping. And quantum jump is
Mhm.
the most idiotically boring thing that
Yeah.
happens. Like in World of Warcraft, you have this where you sit on a griffin,
Yep.
especially the classic, and then it flies forever. But at least it flies like up, down, left, right. You
Yeah,
see
yeah, yeah,
different, you know, territories. You see
yeah,
mobs walking down, you know. And in Star Citizen, it's like almost like a JPEG that lasts, depending on what you're flying with, it lasts forever. And it's
yeah,
like 5 minutes of what the fuck, you know, like and back
yeah,
then people told me that they are bringing some kind of like a mini game with
yeah,
those panels. I was flying Sen at the time, and you had like 4 axis panels, and they were like, yeah, that should be something for, you know, doing something throughout the jump. And I'm like,
yeah,
fuck.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm thinking about
That's
like,
one thing though. Sorry.
should we add this
Continue.
to Imagination Station? Can we think about something that can be like interesting in
Yeah.
this situation? But I don't
I
really. Do you have
I
ideas?
have a couple. I have a couple
Oh,
right now,
great.
actually.
Okay, so let's talk about it in a bit. So when we get there,
Okay.
so
I guess that is
quantum.
kind of big ship multi-crew gameplay anyways.
It is,
So
yeah, it's part of it. Okay, cool.
yeah.
Okay, so that's it with IC. longer than we expected because we tangented a lot as usual.
A lot. Yep.
On the other hand, we had SCL that, listen, I my favorite guy to see is Jeremiah Lee. We know that already. Like, I'm always excited to see him, and this was the most disappointing time I've seen him in my life. I watched the whole Star Citizen live. I think I think it was absolutely unnecessary. I think they didn't know what the fuck to do. Like the team, the topic was older UEE or UPE, whatever the fuck
Yeah,
the name
yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah.
uniforms. So they basically took the uniform of a pilot that we have in Invictus now and tried to or Jeremiah try to make it worse. And he was miserably failing at this. It was hard to watch. It was, and then it to prove this, Jared Hackerby would hide half of the screen because nothing is happening, and he was like, he took Jeremiah Lee's like picture that he print screened, and he was like adding, like with blue marker, like face or whatever, and it
That was
was, huh?
I chuckled at it the first time, and then I realized that Jeremiah Lee had no idea that Disco was doing it.
Yeah, I don't know if I think he knew what he's doing. I think he was like just.
Maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I
Anyways,
felt like everything was pushed, like they were trying hard to make this funny, and
it
they usually
I
make it funny, but this time I just didn't
that's
buy it.
it.
Right?
Like, I feel like most of the time these guys are on screen, like, it's kind of gone down as in like the game lore or like the community lore that, like, Jeremiah Lee and
Disco Lando.
Disco Lando
Yeah.
equals funny, and yeah, maybe it was just that kind of like,
It's almost
because
like,
there's that expectation built up that they feel like they have to kind of like be funny and
yeah, which
hilarious when they're
sucks.
on screen together.
And they're not
It did
comedians, like
kind of ruin
especially
it.
Jeremiah. Like Jeremiah Lee is not a comedian. He's
He's an artist,
an artist
like
and
a
a good one.
quirky artist.
But he cannot. He probably cannot deliver that on demand. And I kind of feel like the whole department that is in charge of the content is like, okay, we don't know what to do now. Let's just,
Yeah, just throw these guys on, they'll be
yeah.
entertaining.
And
Except for it wasn't really, but
here's the funny thing: like Jay Lee could not come up with anything. It was painful to watch. And then the last 5 minutes, it's like an hour, but they extended for like a couple more minutes because in the last 5 minutes, the third sketch that he did, he liked it. I didn't like it personally. I think it was. I mean, it's so hard. Like you have to make it worse. It's just like it makes
yeah,
no sense. And then in the end, it doesn't look like a disaster. I'll give him that, but it's just like so. I really felt like what was it? What was I doing for this hour, man? Like what the fuck? Why did I watch this for the whole hour? You know what I mean? Like that, and I'm sure the retention on that video was horrible. I think people were just like queuing out. Like,
curious
um,
to see their retention on, like, any of those art style
some are funny, man.
videos.
The last one when they were
I don't know,
doing like the old uniforms, it was interesting. And
maybe, I
but
guess
here's the thing: it's such a hit or miss. I don't know how someone thinks that this can be on-demand content because
I
it's
don't
not
know. I never
pre-recorded.
watched them. I literally never watched these
It's
ones,
like
and
if you know any artist, like you can't just like every time have an inspiration because sometimes he's gonna make a first one and be like, "Oh, I like this," and then he's gonna kick in and he's gonna like start like expanding on it. It's
there
gonna
are
be amazing, right?
I've definitely seen some artists that make it look that easy.
Well, Jay Lee is one of
But
those, but
yeah.
there's
Yeah,
always
he
a
is,
chance
yeah.
for an artist
You're always gonna
not
have you're
to.
always gonna have the off day, yeah.
It's not, yeah, or it's just like something that does not inspire you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I used to
For
live with an artist for a long time, and she's an
yeah.
incredible artist. She lives off her art. Now, also, the two artists as well. She's a painter, and it's mind blowing to see these people. She was just like we would eat food, and then I would watch a TV show, and I would turn around, and she painted this fucking you know piece that I'm like, when did you do this? And she was like, yeah, I just felt like doing it. And how? So it isn't, it's inspiring, it's impressive and all that, but it's
Yeah.
not on demand. That's what I'm saying. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Thumbs down for me, even though it was Jeremiah Lee.
I never watch these. Everybody knows this. I've always said it. I never watch the art ones because it just doesn't it's not something I'm particularly interested in. Cool if you are. I tried to watch this one because again, like Jeremiah Leah and Disco kind of have a reputation at this
Yeah,
point.
they have good
But
dynamic,
I just kind of got bored because again, like at the best of times, this isn't something that I'm interested in. I watched the Nubifire video and he said that give it a try, so I tried it, and it turns out that I'm still not interested in
bro,
these
and
sorts of
another like flight
streams.
suit, like who gives a shit, honestly?
Yeah. Yeah, especially one that we're probably not even gonna see in game ever.
Even
It's
if we
and
did, it's like that.
it's even one of the things he said. He's like, "I'm gonna put lots of hoses on this. Good thing this isn't gonna be in game because technical artists hate when you have dangly stuff off the armor and
Yeah,
stuff like that."
true. And then
So,
he
yeah, I don't
added
know.
backpack in the end, and he was like,
I've just like and I know I'm gonna probably step on some toes here because I'm sure that there are probably people who like watching these sorts of art streams, but like the way I consume this sort of content is usually listening, and there's not a lot of listening to do here because there's not a lot of information happening. It's just somebody drawing. But like for me, I I just
"You know what? This is SCL. I really
I
think that Disco
it's yeah.
Lando should answer some questions while they're doing these slow shows."
Well, this is what I was gonna say. Like SCL, these sorts of SCLs for me feel like filler. It's when they don't really have content to do an SCL about, or they're trying to space it out so that it lasts for an entire year,
Mm.
and 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 this is and they have to do something because they've committed to the community to doing like a certain amount of content that's been deemed acceptable,
Well,
and
fuck this
this is the
content.
result.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
exactly, like, that's kinda where I'm at, like, it's cool if you enjoy it, but for me, these are skip episodes. These may as well not even have happened because,
I
like,
mean,
I
I'll
for
be
me,
honest.
it's never interesting.
I would rather watch an hour of Disco Lando's like live stream because he's good and entertaining than
Mm,
watching that. I'm sorry, but like that's how it
mhm,
is. However, he did say something which you probably don't know about because maybe Nuifer
yeah.
mentioned it.
Okay, sorry, can I
Yes.
interrupt for 1 second? Just kind of on the note of a live stream with just Jared. Put Jared and Tyler on and just like you said, just answer basic questions. Like I would listen to that. I
Yep.
don't even
I
care if it's
agree.
not devs. I don't even care if it's like, well, we're not the people who are working on, but this is what we've heard. That's I would prefer that. I
There's
would love that
100%
actually.
so much of that like
Because
basic knowledge that some of us new backers don't
yeah,
know.
exactly, like, those guys are plugged in, man, like
Yeah.
and that's basically when you look at it, like, Board Gamers AMAs that he does, that's essentially all he does.
Yep.
Somebody who's just plugged into the project,
And
who
look at the
knows
numbers,
a
bro.
lot of what's going on, and he just answers questions, even if they're the same question that he's been asked a million times in a million different episodes, he answers them because, like you pointed out, there's always new people, right?
And
There's always new backers who want an answer to a question.
not to
Do that.
shade over Board Gamer, he's a cool duder. I appreciate what he does, but if
Sure,
you had
yeah.
Jared and Tyler,
That would be super entertaining.
they are fucking, they are like spot on entertainment, right? So
This is it right here. This is it right here. We need to have Tyler on the show sometime, and we'll pitch this to him.
yeah, talk to Darian maybe. um, at the end of the show, I think this was another one of like, oh shit. Even Jared realized this is fucking boring, and he brought Pico because he's now in the studio, so he's not doing it from home anymore. And so
Right.
he brought his own Halloween Pico ball that he made to the camera, and he was like, "Listen, guys, I since 313 landed, we have 8 of these Pico balls hidden around the worst, and no one found any and sent a screenshot." So he said, "Yeah, there's some Easter eggs in the game that we don't know about." Um, there's an Easter egg that we looked for in New Babbage. Do you know about that? With that bench with like no? It
No.
was like a
Wait.
whole crazy like few months
Is the one in
ago.
the wait. Is it the one with the fire down in the cave with all the presents and stuff?
No, 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 no.
Or is
No,
okay.
that's no.
Then no, I don't know.
So this one was there's a bench. When they announced it, they were like, "There's something hidden," blah blah blah. So basically, New Babbage, there's a bench where there's like a scene of like there's some beer and I don't remember like shoes or whatever, like someone was there, whatever. And everyone was looking for it. No one knew what it is, but when they said, "Oh, there's an Easter egg around New Babbage," you guys didn't find it, and then
Right.
everyone like spread around them, and someone finally found it, right? And then everyone was going there to just look it up. I seriously, 8 balls in the verse of that size where we have no POIs and everything is like, is this out of touch? Like how much time does one have to spend to find a fucking pickleball?
I never this is one of the reasons I never participate in shit like this because to me that's really, really tedious and boring. But yeah, that's why I don't care about Easter eggs, you know? But
Yeah, I don't
yeah, I
know.
guess if that's some people's gameplay, then cool, I guess. But I don't care.
Sure, but also they almost set themselves for like fail where now he's announcing this, and if people don't find it in a year, it's just gonna be a failed experiment. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
okay, you hit them that well, you
Yeah.
dropped a needle in a
Yeah.
haystack, and we are failing to find it. What a surprise, or
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
fish in the ocean that has one eye different color. Okay,
Yeah.
good luck finding it. You know what I mean? Like, why would I? And here's another thing: if they gave you a reason to find it, right? People would look for it. But you know what he said? He said if someone finds all 8, I will talk to the guys. Maybe we can reward you with something, but I cannot promise.
Okay.
On a live show that is, Star Citizen live show. I'm like, wait, what? Why did you not ask someone already if you're gonna bring it up and tell someone that, hey, you're gonna get an Aurora if you find all 9, or whatever the fuck it is, a fucking hoodie, or I don't care, a beanie in game, doesn't matter, like anything.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, this whole show was big thumbs down for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not super fired up about it, like I said, because I'd never watched these in general.
It's
So
just
I'm
like
already
worse than
used to these
usual.
being
Yeah.
like a filler. But yeah. Yeah.
And it breaks my
No.
heart because it's Jaylee. I love Jaylee.
Yeah.
Also, just to like say this right now, I think Jeremiah Lee is super. I hate saying that people who do something great are talented because there's shitloads of hard work behind that. Like, that's
Oh,
not how it
sure,
works,
sure,
right?
sure. Yeah. Well,
But I think
mm,
he's an amazing fucking artist. I'm so glad that
yeah.
he's part of CAG. And I'm not like, this is not what he's supposed to do. He's not supposed to entertain us, right? He's supposed to
Yeah.
draw
He
things, and
just
he does it so
he
well, right?
happens to be entertaining
Well,
at the
yeah,
same
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all. Just I don't want anyone to
Yeah.
think that I have anything against Jeremiah Lee. I love that guy. Yeah, he's super cool.
Yeah. Concur.
Okay, we're gonna go to our topic of the week. We have a few.
We have a few.
So the first one that we've been dragging for weeks now is how, like, literally, I'm just gonna read the topic that we made a few weeks ago. How do
Mhm.
we snap out of our cynicism when the game or project, whatever we call it, is making it difficult?
Yeah. And
E.g.,
and
huge droughts for 6 months, like now, for example.
yeah, yeah. And like specifically I put this one down here because I just felt like both of us were coming on to onto an episode here and just and it was so hard
It
not
was
to just
difficult.
it was so hard not to even like we were so negative, or at least I was feeling so negative about
Same.
everything that like even the good news that we were getting, or even the stuff that we'd hear about that could be good, you know,
Overshadowed, right?
was overshadowed by just feeling like it probably isn't going to be good because everything sucks right now. And I think like the thing that kind of really like put a like a contrast to this feeling to me was when I would watch a content creator who doesn't play Star Citizen a lot, who is just basically coming back after a year, literally a year of not playing it, and was like, "This is cool, like stuff's
Yeah.
happening," and like and so like so part of me So the
Wish
reason,
you can feel like that, right? Kind of.
yeah, I wish I could feel like that. So that's where kind of this topic came from for me, was like because we follow this project so closely, like we end up in these situations, yeah, where it just feels like nothing's happening, and when it does happen, it's probably gonna suck because everything sucks right now. And
Well,
like
you're
I'm just,
very passionate. Well, we are, and invested into it as well, right?
yeah,
And your content is basically. I mean, it was serious. Like we were at the point we had situations where we talk about like, why do we
yeah.
even do the podcast
Why are
anymore?
we
Should
even
we
doing
stop?
this podcast? Yeah. Because literally it just felt like everything we talked about ended up with us feeling negative about the project and where it's going and where it is right now. And that sucked, man, because like I just, it literally, after watching this one video, I just kind of woke up and I was like, man, like I don't like Star Citizen right now, and that sucks because like I know that I know that I love it, like as a concept, but like I don't,
It just gives me
like
more bad feels than good feels, and
yeah, and like how do I stop feeling that? Because I don't want to feel like that, right? Like I obviously am invested and interested in this project, but how do I snap out of this, and how do I get to a point where I feel like like I can look at things and acknowledge and be critical when I need to be critical, but still feel like
you're excited for it, kind of, I
yeah,
guess.
and even though things maybe aren't great right now, they could end up being good, like when things pan out.
We lack
Instead of
information
instantly.
for long
Yeah.
term
Well, I think
positivity, and
maybe that's part of it.
we
Yeah.
we talked about this several times since the topic has been on, and a few times before it, because it's and I'll be like bluntly honest. I am a very emotional and passionate about anything I dive into, and I am an extremely honest person, which sounds like a super like crazy thing, but it's actually very bad at times because I just cannot mask things, and comes with my depression and all that. But I think I inspired this topic because week in week out, whatever we talk about, I'm like, I don't think it's gonna work. I don't trust them. I don't, and I kind of feel like I am responsible for us getting into that. Well, the game is obviously, but like, my mood as well. But then I came to a conclusion that, first of all, I love the game and I want it to succeed, right? So, and the game did for me something that I will never forget, which I am deeply, deeply depressed person. I have serious issues with it. But then when I first landed into Star Citizen, and I mentioned this before, it gave me not the light at the end of the tunnel, but like we literally talk about this. Like, if you're going through a long tunnel and sometimes it's on the side of the mountain and there's like these little windows with light, that you
Yeah.
pass through, and that means so much, like it just helped me go through my difficult periods. Helped me It helped me get excited about something which is very difficult for me. It helped me forget about everyday stuff while I'm streaming. I used to stream this like 10 weeks a day, 10 hours a
Wait.
day. Sorry. Yeah. um,
Wait a second.
I mean, I can bend time. Sorry, I know you guys did not know that, um, but in the end, I don't want to stop doing a podcast. I don't want to stop following the game. I certainly tempered my expectations big time, and I think it's very, from my perspective, it's not even negative. It sucks, but I think the game will not come out within 10 years. And that acknowledgement in my head made me feel like, do I even care about the game if it's not gonna come for that long? And then I want to be honest, man. If I feel like shit about the game, I want to be able to express myself.
Mm.
But like last week or whatever, I told you, and I think that's where it kind of clicked in, where I was like, dude, I was mining and I had loads of fun. and I live for this moment to come on the show. Which last week I was like super happy to like talk about what happened in the game, even though that's not my gameplay. But it was good. It was fun, and I want so inside me myself, like I want to bring positive content and talk about good stuff in Star Citizen rather than bad stuff. But Star Citizen has to help me with this, right? I can't. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna white knight for it. I don't care about that. Like I want to be
Well,
realistic.
that's it, right? Like there
Yeah,
has to be some degree of realism and there has to be some degree of criticism, you know, to some extent. But
and
like,
fine
but
line,
that
right?
yeah, it is such a fine line because that's what I was feeling. Like it was just like it's okay to be critical. It's okay to be critical. And then it was almost like I just woke up and I realized that like I personally went beyond being critical and I literally just started not
Yeah,
liking, you know.
I don't feel like I'm like that. I feel like I am. I just feel like game has been in a drought for way too long. That nothing has happened, and we talked about this as well. Like it went up and then down. It's not like flatlining. It's like going under because we had this gameplay with Xenothread and everything, and then they just like removed it, and then all of a sudden the the game performance was worse than
Yeah.
when we had an event and all that, and it was just like uh, we're not talking here about like, of course there's an explanation to this and all that, that's fine, but like the the feeling that you have when you play the game is just demoralizing to a point where we're not playing the game anymore. And yeah, I think it's and I honestly, for a live service alpha game, you need as a developer, you need to think about this because you want people to play, you want content creators to create, you want to sell your stuff. And we talked about this as well. I actually expect this year to be the numbers to be like much lower. Now there's like also like some people are already setting it up for it because last week Americans got the COVID whatever money from the government that a lot of people spent on ships apparently. But
Yeah.
still, I just think even without it, I just feel like simply I think funding, they can prove me wrong, but like I think the funding will be down this year.
So far from what I've seen, there's a person in the relay station who tracks their publicly released kind of funding. Um, and so far it's actually looking like no, it's actually pretty close to last year. But
Yeah, but the big bumps are yet to
yeah,
happen, right? So that's
this
when
is
it
where
matters.
this is where we'll kind of like see is like coming into Invictus and then later on around CitizenCon, do
And,
those pan out?
and I'll be honest, like I know this is, and we talked about this off stream as well several times. Where I'm sorry, but I come from Serbia, where you're learn as you grow up, you learn that big companies lie to you that like all the time. They
Mhm,
find the loopholes and they give you information that is not necessarily
mhm.
a lie, but it's not necessarily truth. And you need to
Yeah.
read all the like tiny text in that
Mhm.
is well hidden from you and all that. And I don't trust their funding. Like I already struggle believing those numbers.
It's true.
And
But the problem is and, like, ultimately, like, I've seen, like, with you how that will sometimes that'll bleed through to, like, what they're talking about in game too, right? It's
hmm?
like and this kind of contributes to it in my opinion, like well, this was kind of one of the things that was kind of a revelation to me was when we were talking about, like, you know, like, let's use capacitor gameplay for an example, like, we would talk about capacitors and how it has the potential to change the game and like and ultimately if you kind of take the position of like well they're lying or they're saying something that's not true or whatever then like man like I just like for me it just makes it so that the outlook for like what gameplay is even going to look like just starts looking really bleak. It's like
And you
you
can't
know
escape that feeling that, oh, you
whoops.
disappeared. There we go. You can't escape that feeling that we agreed on this couple of times that they don't really know a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff about their own game,
Yeah.
which is
Totally.
okay. but it's not, because it's been how many years, like you should by now you should know what you want, and
Well,
what
yeah.
to strive for. And sometimes I just get confused with, like, when John Cruz says, or whoever, it doesn't matter, like, we don't really have a solution for this, but we're thinking about it, certain gameplay. I'm like, what? You never even thought about like this? Holy what?
Well, this is like, I guess, in their defense, like, best laid plans, or like, what's the other one? The something about battle strategies don't survive first contact with the enemy. I think there's kind of a little bit of that too. Like, you can have a system that sounds amazing on paper, and then you actually plug it into the game, and it's a fucking shit show.
I know, man.
you know.
I agree with this, but to
But
a certain point where, like, the amount of years of the development at some point has to play a role in all this, like, yeah, I mean, if they're
yeah,
planning on rolling it for next 10 years and not developing the game, and if they knowingly go into it like that, then that's fine. Like, they have a lot of time on their hands. No one
yeah,
is pushing them. If they don't lose the funding, it's all good.
yeah.
But then be transparent about it. Like, tell us, hey
Well, and
guys.
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess this is the, like, duh kind of, like, conclusion to, like, how do you snap out when the game's making it
You don't.
difficult? You don't really, unless that communication gets to a level where you can be this engaged, and not kind of let the question marks and like shitty aspects of the game pile up to a point where it's hard to not be cynical. I
For
mean, it's either that or you don't play the game and you just come back periodically to see how it is and then decide kind of whether or not you
Yeah.
still like it, which
For
you
me,
can't do if you're doing regular content.
exactly. For me, there's one thing that I need, and I know now that I'm not gonna get it, and but I really need that. I used to be a content creator for a well-established MMO and Elder Scrolls Online, and I was backed by Bethesda and ZeniMax, and and then they never take responsibility for their mistakes.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
they make mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's fine. And then
Everybody
once,
does, yep.
so I was streaming for like a couple of years, big numbers. So I had a platform where people hear me, and so that, and I always said, like, fucking say that you made a mistake, in patch notes, in on a forum, anywhere, and then to back this up, I was being so pissed that I've left their stream team, I've left the directory and everything, and then, like, how much of an impact this had on my streaming and my community. A year after I stopped streaming Elder Scrolls Online, someone from my community linked a tweet where they apologized for something. Okay? This never happened before. Like, they've made so many mistakes. There was never, sorry guys, we're sorry about this. Made a mistake. Here's
Yeah,
a mini pet for you or something. Something. And you know what? I'm not streaming the game anymore. I'm like, I'm not playing the game anymore. I went all over the place. I was like, fuck, thank you, Bethesda and ZeniMax, for saying sorry, we screwed up, Like, I think that's really important, especially in a game like Star Citizen. And
yeah,
because you're
yeah,
building it with your community. And the fact that I don't trust them, like, kills me from the inside. And I don't trust them. I know this sounds horrible, but I do believe that Star Citizen can be a game one day that is the best game on the market. I do believe that they have probably the best, or some of the best, people working on the project. Um, However, I think that the information they're feeding their backers is very
edited.
calculated and edited.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I think so too.
that hurts me. And when we talked about this, Maso, you said, like, that's how the industry works now. And then to that, I have to, it's true, and it sucks from my perspective. It sucks because I'm
Yeah.
not. First of all, I feel like they're underestimating intelligence of their player base that is funding them. Uh, the other thing is sometimes they show their unexperience with like almost like they're not playing other games, where you can see like when Cutlet gets these outbursts of like being pissed off because like he understands how things work, and then he explains it and people are like, oh wow, this guy has like 10,000 IQ. No, he plays other games. That's how it works. And it doesn't feel like it feels like they're stuck in their own game that has started development 8 years ago, and you're like, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. That sucks, bro. Like, I just want
Does,
real
yeah.
transparency. Like, I want. That's the
Yeah.
problem. You said that's the way the industry is now, but to that I have to say, they're selling us the revolutionizing the industry
And this
picture,
is the
right?
thing.
And they're
I would
not revolutionizing it. They're using the same marketing fucking. And I'm
yeah.
gonna say it
Well,
again. I'm gonna say it again. Predatory, things, FOMO,
yeah.
all of that shit. When I'm a building block in your game, who are you? Why are you doing this to me, you motherfuckers? Why? I don't get it. And
But
as an
I
emotional and
think
invested as I am, this breaks my heart. And I'm negative then.
I think the frustrating thing too is that like while okay, CIG has always struggled with communication. I think any
is
company
is that
does.
wait? Is that an
When
excuse? I agree. Is that an excuse? Let's
no,
stop there.
it's not an
When
excuse. What I'm no, because it's not my point.
I know, but
My
where are they
point
going
is
to learn? It's been
no.
so long.
Let me finish my
Sure.
point.
Sorry.
This was just set up
Yeah.
because like when they were smaller, it did feel more intimate. It felt like you could ask. Like we had fucking Chris Roberts literally every week coming on and answering, oftentimes the same fucking question that he was asked last week, you know, and responding to it directly because it was a smaller community. It was a smaller project. The scope wasn't necessarily as big. There definitely wasn't as many people, and it's like as the game has become more successful, we definitely have had more of this like feeling of like more of a corporatization. It's becoming the
Yeah.
responses we're
Yep.
getting from people are more like doctored by PR.
Yep.
They actually have like a PR department and like a marketing department and stuff like that. And that's it just
Yeah.
it
And
does feel a little bit
I'm,
more like we're getting put behind a
you
wall.
know what I'm gonna say, and you're not gonna like it. They're turning into EA, and you're gonna be like, how can you say that? And last time we had this conversation, it's like,
I just think it's exaggerating. That's all.
but it is. But they're trying to become the big company, right? So Blizzard is a great
Wow.
example. They used to be a very small studio that made small games that people loved. And then they invested into their community, and they became worldwide phenomenon where they used to be like the world's favorite studio, like all over the world. And then they signed the contract with Activision, and they still kick butts, right? There's no doubt about it. They're very successful, but are they still favorite? I don't have to answer that question, unfortunately. And I think, of course, CIG is not EA, but they're definitely taking that route. Like they're going that way, and I hope that
Well,
I'm
that's
wrong.
who actually I can't remember exactly how he said it, but that old man Johnny Morgan or whatever on ATC said
Oh yeah,
something. It was a couple episodes back where he mentioned something to the effect of like how he doesn't hate the game industry, he hates the corporatization of the gaming industry, or how the funding
mm-hmm.
has ended up kind of working out for all
But the funny
games.
thing is, who's funding these games? The player base. So why you don't have that excuse, even,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. But it's not the player necessarily. It's just like how producers and like those what's the
I
word I'm
know,
looking
but wait, like
like
I know
like
because I'm part of the movies industry where
yeah,
again
yeah,
the
well
producers, no one wants to
specifically
talk to them because they're fucking
producers as in EA is a producer. Like
yeah,
there are people who basically
publishers
say like
basically.
publishers, that's the word I was looking for. Like they basically they're run by a board of people who aren't gamers. They're
No, they're
business
producers.
people,
Yeah,
and their job is to make literally as much money as possible and to deliver shareholder value. And they don't give a fuck whether or not they release a game that's good or not. They give a fuck about releasing a game that sells.
And it makes
And
sense in a AAA
and
studio, right? It's
well, it
sad, but it
does, but it
works like
doesn't.
that.
Like it's like that mentality has, according to Johnny Morgan, and I agree with him in this case, has resulted in a less good games industry. Like we've been getting less good games progressively over the last, I would say,
I
two
don't know.
decades. Because the focus has become more on selling copies than it is about making a game that's good.
Okay,
Um,
but now
and
how
and
does
game
this
companies
connect to
are
Star Citizen?
less, well, because here's the thing. Well, this is one of the reasons that the Star Citizen project took off in the first place,
They were selling
because
this. They were selling the opposite idea of what Johnny
exactly
Morgan is saying.
they
But
were
now they're
selling
doing that, and we're still like
exactly.
throwing money at them. And I'm like,
Yes. And that is one of the things that sucks. That's kind of where I was going with this. Is like they are in a situation where they basically they decided that we don't want to go with a publisher because we want to be able to take risks and be ambitious. And that is something that publishers
and be open
absolutely
about
do
stuff,
not
right?
want, and be open about how things are going. But as things are developing, and again, like as the game is getting bigger and their funding is more and more dependent on how the game is perceived and how the project is, and how much money they're taking in year over year, because again, like as the scope has expanded, the timeline has drastically expanded, and this basically what I'm getting to is that like they've ended up in a situation where they probably would have ended up if they'd had a publisher, and that is that, like the money is
Do you want
becoming.
the tinfoil hat theory here?
No, but okay, let's go.
They have a publisher, and that publisher, instead of sinking the money into the company, is buying SE accounts and ships.
Whoa, buddy.
There's my tinfoil hat. Wait,
Uh,
I
y-
mean, I said it's a
Hey, you
tinfoil
keep
hat.
saying you keep saying you need to make a tinfoil
Yeah,
hat,
I
and I
need to
keep
make it right.
agreeing with you.
I have
And next time you
tinfoil, so I can make it. And just
just
remind me,
don't even
please.
just don't even say that you're gonna do a tinfoil hat.
Yeah,
Just put on the tinfoil hat,
please remind
then
me
say
that
your shit.
because I'm gonna forget about doing it.
Because like I'm sorry, but claims like that, you
It's
have to have
stupid.
something backing that up.
No. I mean, this is bullshit, right?
Yeah,
But you can't deny that there could be some possibility that
I
because
don't
they're
know. I
not
guess
doing what they were selling, and I just don't feel like what has
no,
changed.
because
Like
well,
why?
what has changed is that basically they're realizing that in order to actually build out this game, after they've had to push things back and back and back and back, as they're realizing the just sheer complexity of what they've undertaken here, they're realizing that, yeah, like you said, they're probably going to need about 10 solid years of development funding. And how do you do that? Right now, basically, there's a model that is somewhat successful, and unfortunately, it involves, like curated responses and PR speak to keep the money coming in. And that sucks. It
Money from
really sucks,
who though?
especially
Money from who?
from us. That's the thing. Like, publisher aside, they basically have to pitch to us like they're pitching to a board of
Dude,
directors,
that's not
or like
true.
they're.
That's bullshit.
I don't know, man.
I don't
It's
think that's
working.
selling. No,
Look
but
at their
I don't
funding.
I think what's working is years of them not doing that, and then word of mouth about like when you see someone who is passionate about Star Citizen and you're like, why the fuck are you like it? This is me a few years ago where Reg tells me, dude, you gotta try it. It's amazing. I'm like, you're spending money on this, like fucking this will never come out. And he's like, no, but and then the passion that we talk about Star Citizen just buys you in. You're like, fuck this.
Sure.
This person is crazy, man. And then I think that's what's selling Star Citizen, unless they're selling it to investors in some way. I don't know, man.
I
You know,
think I think what if that is true, then what we'll see over the next couple years is a drop off of funding, as people
unless
like us
an
who are even the
investor
most
is boosting
passionate,
money into it
maybe.
in
But
some
how
way.
much
I
money?
mean, huh?
Like any investor is not going to just keep pumping money into a project that isn't. that isn't going to have a reasonable return on investment. I mean, that's why the Calder brothers invested in Squadron 42 because that is a
I want to see how many
short-term project.
ships Elon Musk has in Star Citizen.
Yeah,
He can invest all of his Doge coins or whatever.
is yeah, is Doge. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I think that the cure to this, in my opinion, is kind of more of a return to what we had back in the day, where the information was a little bit more free flowing. But unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna happen for a variety of reasons, one of which being that lawsuit that basically cost them millions of dollars because they were free flowing with information. Um, but,
Again, transparency, like explain why, and make it sound,
yeah,
like it makes sense,
yep.
you know? So the answer to how do we snap out of this, I don't think we can. I think the game needs to give us reason to snap out of it, and I'm gonna be the first one to, like last week and this weekend. I'm doing good. Is that fucking the moment I'm happy the moment I get something nice and enjoyable, I'm gonna talk about that rather than something else. You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah, yep.
And I'm not
I
giving up on the game. Like I'm not. It means to me more than it's still, and even like I know like there's like good and bad things. Things come up and down and whatnot.
there's definitely, like, up until this point, I haven't been a content creator, so for me, like, the times where I started feeling like this, I just stepped away and I played stuff. I played other
Yeah,
stuff, but I don't have the luxury of that now that we have a
I know,
weekly
right?
podcast.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's definitely, like, a bit of a curse. I would say, like, if you're listening to this and you're feeling like that, I mean, that's my advice is, like, just step away for a bit, man. Like, it just it's every time I see somebody come back to the game after a year, 6 months, whatever, everything seems so much better. So if you
Yeah.
have that luxury, I would say do that.
That's another thing. Like I thought the game will be out in like 4 years when I started
Yeah.
playing, and
Oh
I
my
was
god, yeah.
ready to sacrifice that, because I like being stuck in the game, and I would still. So this has been like 2 years since I started, and I would still be okay with like waiting for 2 more years for a game to come out. But now I know it's not gonna happen. So that's another struggle that I'm dealing with because that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And then if someone told me, "Hey, 10 years
I don't think
from
that's
now,"
anything. Honestly, I don't think that's anything anybody is signed up for
yeah.
because, like,
Well, also, like, if
um
I knew it's gonna be in 10 years, I'm not saying I wouldn't sign up for it. I would just have different expectations. You know what I mean? Or
yeah.
maybe I wouldn't sign up for it.
Well, like
It's-
like, let me like, I jumped in at 2014, been following since 2012, and man, like, I would, like, 2014, if you'd have told me that it'd be 2021, like, halfway through 2021, and the game would still be in the state it's in, I would have been like, "Whoa," like, I definitely didn't expect that.
yeah,
So, I mean, I get it, big tech takes a long time to develop, but if I'd have known that back then, I don't know. I don't know if
like
I
yeah,
probably would have still dropped some money in to, like, play
that's not a
around, but
problem. It just that's
yeah,
the tempering the expectations.
yeah,
Like I
I
would
definitely
know
would have,
that. Okay, I
yeah,
mean, sure, maybe my kid's gonna play this.
yeah.
Whatever.
What time are we at on the
We're not that
recording?
bad. We're like 2 hours.
2 hours? Let's jump
Yeah.
into Imagination Station. We can leave some of these other topics for next time. Or did you
Um.
want to go do this because this kind of,
Yeah. Yeah. I that bleeds into it. So
yeah,
definitely we can skip this and then this is together. This is the same thing, right?
yeah, right.
So actually let's start with the I don't even know. So the next topic is uh multi crew content in big ships, and then like mostly what we're what I want to talk about. What we want to talk about is industrial ships. So I'm not talking about Idris, right? So that's kind of obvious. You have
Yeah, yeah. You go into a combat
yeah,
scenario, you have damage
that's fine.
report, or you have damage, you have engineering, you have like gunners, etc., etc.'s
Yeah.
combat is pretty straightforward. What multi-crew gameplay will look like there.
So, so we're talking more about Orion or Endeavor
Reclaimer.
or Reclaimer, and how can we or even 890? Like I don't know. Like, well,
Yeah, like
that's
what's
an iffy one,
gameplay
but
what I guess this is like topic and imagination
for
station.
sure,
Like
yeah.
like what does that gameplay look like for people who are crewing up, and is it good enough to like is there feasibly going to be enough there to actually keep a group entertained to
Exactly.
actually to actually do something like that.
And to
um
add to this, my next line was, can these big ships be some kind of a DLC content? And I know before you take out your pitchforks, wording here is not important. It's what I mean by this. And let's put it straight up into perspective to like tell you what I had in my mind. Let's say you have Orion, and then mining in your, I don't know how it works, right? But like I'm assuming it's gonna have some lasers that
yep.
will be operated by um
Yeah, it's basically like
players.
the way it's been described is that it's going to be basically like the mining we have now with like lasers cracking and stuff like that. But there will be a few more steps to it because the Orion is supposed to be able to take on the largest asteroids, like actually big ones, have to use drones to kind of like analyze it to break it up properly. And then the laser at the same time, the lasers from the sounds of things won't be doing the like vacuuming up of the mined minerals, or like when the rocks are broken up. That's a separate station. And then on top of it, there's a refinery on board, which actually requires a player to man as well.
So
So
refinery, then you probably need an engineer,
mining plus extra steps.
right?
Um,
So
a drone operator, tractor beam operator.
it doesn't have a landing bay, right? You can't have like other ships around it, or can you?
I can't remember if it said that it would have a cutter, but I do
Because
know that the
do you
pods on
think
it are detachable.
is Redeemer, sorry, Orion,
Reclaimer. Oh,
a ship that is almost like your remote mining base in a way. So if you can join with
yeah,
like 5 moles
yeah.
on top of it and maybe 2 or more prospectors, and then just like them bringing stuff to the Redeemer instead of, because it has
Or
the,
to the reclaimer, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like in theory, yes, because like if you look at the reclaimer, it has these like detachable cargo pods on them. So in theory, what you'd be able to do is basically offload your prospector and your moles directly to the to the Orion, where it would be refined, loaded into these compartments, and then in the pods can be detached and loaded onto something like a hull.
Which is the
Um,
mechanic that we should have already with Mole and
yeah,
Prospector, right? So um
but we don't.
we don't, yeah. But okay, but it's like a planned thing. That's fine. I mean, that's an alpha, right? But okay. So the way we started talking about this is Paul Shelley in the latest Astropub mentioned that we have to figure out that mining is done. They can expand on it, but it's done. And you and me disagreed with this, where I feel like it is done, and I was hoping that that's something that they can replicate now with another professions,
Hmm.
using like literally like reskinning mining and tweaking for salvage or some other thing, and you said it, no, it's not done because it's missing
Yeah,
more gameplay like mechanics, like you're
yeah,
right,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Though to be fair, I think you're right to say that like the core mechanics of mining are done. It's just that I think there's some more stuff that'll be added on to it later down the road.
So my question to everyone is, would we as player base be okay with the level of gameplay that mining gives us right now be the level of gameplay that mining ends up being in released version of the game. And then having that level of other professions,
Oh, come in later.
across the board being the start of the game. And then I called it DLC, but let's
Right.
say,
Okay. Okay. I
everyone's
see what you mean.
mining, and then you're like, hey guys, we have Orion ready. It has a new mechanic, and you can
Yeah.
base your operation around it for a corp that is already formed and doing mining, and then they can invest into this. It's not DLC, but you know what I mean, like new content pack that opens up more gameplay
Yeah.
after the launch. And
And you know what?
maybe
Like,
it comes up with another planet that is very rich with minerals and remote or something like that.
well, that could be anything. Yeah, it could be an event of like, an asteroid or whatever that's been floated. You know what? Like, I like that idea with under the condition, basically, like, in order for me to be okay with them not continuing to actively develop a profession, I would have to have other basic professions already that kind of work together. So, like, for example, like, we've seen all this work on mining. We're still waiting for decent cargo hauling. Like, I would be okay with them basically
Sure.
saying we're done with mining right now if there was, for example, like a working cargo hauling, so that that can click together with mining, so that they can kind of
Yeah.
like
Well,
so they
that's what
can
I'm
kind of
saying.
play together.
Let's
Yeah,
let's talk about every major profession. So let's say cargo hauling the same. So now they start working on that, and we have
yeah,
like physicalized cargo and all that, and it
yeah.
works.
Which should be coming in
Sure.
314. Oh my god, I hope
Or
so.
like starting to get to where mining is. It's gonna take time, right, to develop it to that point where it's like very
Yeah.
enjoyable and all that. But then you can expand, like, if you want to touch a container to all series, that can be, the additional content after the launch, like the biggest Hull series, right? Where a lot of people would be pissed off it is because they already paid for the ships, right? But
Yeah.
at the same time, no one ever told us, like, or we know that some of these ships. You know what I feel like? I feel like maybe Javelin comes out now, and you fly it, and oh, you got your and then they remove it, right? Because it's not the time yet. And I wonder how would this affect people who fucking paid for because you could buy Orion already,
Don't really
right?
care, honestly. Like,
But
yeah,
you
like
don't care, right?
I mean, well, no, it's just like that's been the name of this fucking game, man. It's like you back for a ship, but you never know when that's gonna come out. Like,
Well, you do
and
have
it's
an expectation that a ship will come out before the game is finished, right? And that's
yeah,
what
well,
I'm
I guess
asking you.
to an
Are you
extent,
okay? So you have
it's
Perseus.
no, I
No,
have
you
Polaris.
have Polaris.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with they brought in Polaris? Because this is definitely like next level of PvP gameplay, or like combat gameplay. Sorry. So would you be okay with them bringing Polaris? You play it for a month and they remove it, and it's gonna be a pack like later down the road when the game is a
What?
year in. You'll get it because you have it, but others
Okay,
gonna have to like get it.
that I would have a problem with because
That's what I'm
why?
talking.
Why are you taking it out? Like,
To
if you put
because
it
it
in the
can
first
add
place,
more gameplay mechanics, new gameplay mechanics.
we'll just leave it in there until the gameplay mechanics like, that's like, I'm sorry, but I'm not seeing the connection between this and, like, let's say the Orion where, like, there's more gameplay that's required to
Same,
make the Orion, like, functional.
same.
Um,
With Polaris, it would be certain mission that you can do with Polaris, right? So it can bring. It's almost like bringing a new raid to World of Warcraft, like where literally you get the content patch, where this certain ship is your raid, basically. So the
personally, for I don't like that at all. Like,
see, the
personally, I would
moment
just
I
rather
mentioned your
I would
ship, you don't like it. Just saying.
well, no.
That's the
No, what I'm
thing.
saying is, like, no, and here's the thing. Like, I would just like them to just not put it in. Just don't put it in at all until it's ready.
Well, they
I'm
have to
fine with
test
that.
it. They have to test the basic of that ship, but maybe the new
Okay.
mechanics
Okay,
that they
so what are we
bring.
saying here then? So
So let's
basically,
say they
so
bring
they
Orion to the game now. Let's go back to that. And
okay.
the lasers work, the refinery works, but then that thing where it like swallows a fucking asteroid and turns it into, profit, that's not in game. That's a new mechanic that And once that mechanic is ready to get in and refresh the gameplay of 2 years after the launch or whatever, because you need to refresh your gameplay, otherwise the
Yeah,
game
but
dies.
why bother putting something through testing if it's gonna need more testing
Yeah,
when it
because
has
everything else
the
works. It's just a new mechanic now.
so then just hold it off until the mechanics ready and then
Absolutely,
put it
yeah.
out and test it.
This is when we talk
That's where
about
I think.
Valheim. This is, for me, this is alpha testing, beta testing, early access. You launch Valheim, allow people to play it, and then it works. Okay, sorry guys, take care. See you in 6 months when we have to test something else, and then you release something, and then it still has hype and reason for people to like start playing it or whatever. Like
I
this,
don't I see, I disagree with,
I know.
in
Yeah,
this case, it's because, well, 1, I don't think you can really compare a
I'm just.
Valheim release to, like, a ship
Well, I
release,
can.
and, like, or a mechanic, because ultimately, Valheim right now is a complete game, basically. Honestly, literally, if they called Valheim finished and it was just that,
Sure.
so I don't really think you can compare that to, like, a ship that they release and has missing, because I just don't see the point in that. I'm still I don't think I'm really
I just gave you the
getting where
point.
you're going with this.
The point is, if so, World of Warcraft right now is in the worst state ever in its history because it has never been this long. Like the longest no patch was like 8 months, I think, during the Warlords of Draenor or something, and now it's been even longer. So the game came out, the Shadowlands, whatever, and then on time, the first trade came out, and since then nothing has been happening. People don't have anything. Like there's nothing to do. So
Okay,
they need next batch of content to
sure.
right. So that's what I'm
So
saying.
what
So
you're
you need to
saying is you
refresh gameplay by adding new stuff into it, right?
Okay, I see where you're going. So basically, like, release the let's use the Orion for an example. Release the Orion just to, like, give you some fresh gameplay,
Yeah.
even if it's not 100% there,
No. At
and
that
then,
time, it's 100% there. Like we're talking about, like the game is released, right? The game is released like 10 years from now, but the
oh, okay,
Orion
okay,
is
okay.
not in the game. But
Yeah.
year one, you know,
But even that, I still don't understand why you would take it away. Like that's the part I'm not getting. Like, why
I
would
don't
you
know how to
remove it?
explain it again. Like
Uh,
I'm gonna give you the same explanation because you remove it because you need to refresh gameplay. So you basically, because we're in alpha, we're not. I hope that we are maybe like 5 or 10. The people, like all the people that play now, if they're more than 10% of actual player base when game comes out, we are screwed, man. You know what I mean? So these 90% or more people that are playing the game, they don't know what the fuck Orion is because we had the
mm,
chance to play with it, right? So for them, when the Orion comes lands in the game, they're like, "Oh shit, I might spend money on this because they like mining, right?" So you are not the target audience for this, anyways. You bought it already. Who cares, right? If you're talking like
right.
marketing and everything, like I'm talking about like something that in my mind makes sense. Like this is how they add content to the game.
Yeah. I think yeah, I think the reason I'm struggling with this is because if a ship is that close, if a ship is at a level where you can put it in the universe and it mostly functions, like, it's like what, maximum a couple months away from being done. So that's, I think, where I'm really, like, struggling with the example,
Yep.
but I see what you mean, basically,
This
like,
is,
throwing something in
why?
there just
This
to
is why
shake
you
this up.
play beta and early access games and I don't. That's why you don't see the
I
point,
guess.
right? Because you're like,
But, like,
whatever, give it in. We can play with it if it's not finished. But that's not how the things work. You don't buy a BMW with engine semi
you
working.
do if you bought a Tesla.
Fuck, I don't even know about that, but that sucks, man.
Yeah, yeah, anyways. Um, uh, I think a better example of this would be missions. If it was something that you like, or events or something, if you wanted to test them and then bring them back later, that would be a better example for me. But, like, like releasing a ship as DLC later on, sure. In fact, I fully expect that to be the
with
case. You
content.
know?
Like this
Yeah.
ship is optimized for this content,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Like Endeavor
You
is a
can
perfect
try and
example of
do
that,
it.
I
You
think.
can try and do it with like whatever you have, but
Yeah.
you're not really, your chances of completing this content are kind of slim,
Yeah.
and it makes sense, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
gating and all that, but I mean, it makes sense. And then obviously you should have an option to buy the shipping game. Let's make that clear. I'm not talking about like boof, everyone spend money. I'm not talking about like paid DLCs. I don't know
Yeah.
how they're gonna do this. I don't care. Maybe an option. I don't care. But I'm just talking about like additional game content to refresh the game. We're not talking about
This
money here.
from what I've heard from them and from what we've seen so far, I that's just how I it's just how I expect it, I
Sure,
guess.
I
Like
agree.
I
I just need to
honestly
say
I
because
could
some
see
people
like
might think of
yeah,
me trying to sell the idea of them, just um,
like
FOMO
especially if we
money
get to a
making kind of.
especially if we get to a position where we're quote unquote beta, like I
Yeah.
could definitely see them kind of doing more like, like the game is functioning, people are playing the game, and then they basically drop in these DLC packs, for lack of a better term, content packs,
Mm.
like as needed, or like if they need testing for something specifically, like I absolutely could see that. Like for example, dropping the Endeavor in because, again, like releasing the Endeavor with like a pack of science related, gameplay or
Hmm.
whatever that
Yeah, module or
and again,
whatever.
like
Yeah.
you can do like let's say like if it releases like a bunch of science based gameplay or something like you can do that in the Sen
Yeah.
too,
Some of
but
it,
like
or
yeah, some of it exactly, but like for like the complete experience,
then
you
Aquila,
need
whatever there.
yeah,
But
like
then
for
the
the
most
complete
optimized way
experience,
to do
you
it
need to
is, yeah,
be
Endeavor.
on an Endeavor, yeah. Or at least working together with an Endeavor, like potentially using the Endeavor as like a central kind of like a hub for this batch of gameplay that comes out. Yeah, like I can see that. I
Yeah,
mean, honestly,
I made my peace with this, like big ships being literally like World of Warcraft's Gates of Anquirage patch. Like
mhm,
literally, like okay, for every, I don't know, profession, so we can get like, I don't know, like Endeavor for science, we can get Orion for mining, and like, and then we can get like, I don't
yeah,
know, like Reclaimer
Reclaimer for
for
salvage,
salvage. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
Endeavor
Idris.
could also be for medical, but
Yeah.
yeah, like or for combat, yeah, you got your
Idris
Idrises
for
and
combat. I don't know,
yeah,
like stuff like that.
and those are basically like your raid content
Yeah,
packs kind of a
exactly.
thing.
Multi-crew content. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Which must come with content that you can use it for
yeah,
optimally. Like, yeah, you can go
yeah,
and fly around with your Idris, but you're like bleeding
totally.
money just to like flex it because, I mean, why not? It's an MMO if it is. And but also, yeah, here's Idris for you because now we have content that, dude, if you don't have Idris there, like, oof, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah. And not to mention, like, we kind of talked about this, I think it was last episode, talking about, like, uh how, like, is it realistic to expect that you'll be able to have the crew necessary to man some of these? And I do think it's like we kinda concluded is that it will be kind of more of something where it'll probably end up being something more like it's, I mean, this isn't really on topic, but,
Mm,
um
that's okay.
like a raid kind of scenario where it's like looking for engineer for for
For Endeavor,
Orion
for,
mining,
yeah, exactly, for
or
certain thing, yeah.
looking for four more for Orion mining run or whatever,
In Pyro,
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I don't know, like I think yeah, these big ships could be quote unquote DLC because like you said, like they'd be releasing the ship with a pack of new missions, events, whatever else, right? Like, yeah. Actually, you know what? Like, I like that now that I'm thinking about like that specifically. Like, imagine them dropping an event. Like, let's say Xenothreat. Let's just use Xenothreat, and then and yeah, like instead of the javelin, or instead of like Well, no, let's actually use the javelin as an
Sure.
example. Instead of the javelin being an NPC ship that you have to
You need javelin
like
in that
stock
group,
up.
right? And you
Yeah,
need bunch of stuff
you
around it,
need to get a
logistics,
crew. You need to get a
fighters,
crew together.
crew, yeah. But
Yeah,
you need
yeah,
like javelin is like a cornerstone around which this
totally.
content
But the
is being
javelin is
played.
manned by players,
Yes, but you need
like
to find a
and
player with javelin, and then most likely javelin clan or whatever corp will
yeah,
look for other crew
yes, yeah,
and other
yeah,
ships around it,
totally. Or
and then
we're
just
down we're
it's really
down 2
important.
engineers today because they didn't show
Yes,
up for the raid, so
exactly.
we'll just pug them, right? Just
And then
grab 2
it's
engineers.
again, it's very important because when I think about this, I always think like, fuck, someone has to pay for a javelin. But no, if the corporation invests into fighting, like dogfighting gameplay, then they can buy javelin in game if they don't have it
Yeah,
already,
yeah.
which enables them to play this. But
Well,
they
frankly,
can't buy
even
javelin until that patch is released, that the javelin patch is released with Xenothreat,
yeah.
content, right?
Yeah. You know what would be cool too is that like, if it's done right, you don't necessarily need that javelin. It could be like, if you have
Sure, but it
okay, we
comes
don't
with it, so
we
that
can't get a
it's like
javelin.
almost
Oh, okay, okay, right.
almost
Okay, I
like
see.
you guys can do
Oh,
it like
hey,
that,
I do like that idea. Yeah. So like
If you
so
don't
the
wanna,
javelin's already there.
yeah.
The javelin's there and just it's up to you to man it basically or up to a group to man it. Like regardless of whether or not you have it. That would be a situation where yes, I would be fine with them basically putting that in and then it's gone basically when the event is gone. That's an example where I would be cool with that. And now that I've made that connection, ditto with the Orion. So like if they did an event where there's an Orion that 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 needs to be manned in order to go do this mining thing. Yeah. Okay, I get it. I think I get it
But you
now.
can also have like your own, you know what I mean? Like
You
it's
could bring
fine.
your own. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But after that event is done, they shelve the Orion again to kind of like continue working on it if, after they've got all this data from the testing.
I will
Okay.
wait, but
I
I mean
get
that's a
it.
good idea. I like it, but that's not what it's close. What I was saying is like, like let's say they announce it like 2 months from now, Orion patch comes, right? Which means if you're a mining crew, you gotta stack up that money, brother, because Orion will be in the shops in New Deal or wherever the fuck you're buying it,
Right.
and
Okay.
you
Yeah.
work for a goal together to get your Orion if you don't have it, but in
Right.
your
Yeah.
corp. The patch lands and you're like, all right, boys, let's go buy Orion and let's go and get some money. So everyone gets into their miners. You get enough crew for the Orion, and you like go through the jump point, brother, and there's that new gold rush happening somewhere because it came the same patch as the Orion came. I don't think they need to remove it. Like still I'm talking about like the game is done, like complete. It's just like adding new content. I'm talking past beta. Like I'm talking like the
Yeah.
game is my perfect like situation. And they're like, all right, it's been a year. Here's new content for you miners.
Hmm.
But I mean it
Yeah.
could be, yeah, it could be. This is why it's like semi-topic,
But,
semi-imagination,
but
because
is that technically? And I'm gonna kind of like play devil's advocate here. Is that a released game though for you?
yes, is World of
If
Warcraft release
they're
game?
well, yeah, but this is the thing I'm kind of failing to grasp is like how that is okay, like but a game like Valheim, which still technically has an early access tag,
You're
but it's
missing like two
basically
different things. I don't
what's that?
care. Like as long as they're feature complete and polished, and
Okay,
then they're calling it the final product so that they can
right.
take responsibility
Well,
for their
that's
product. That's what I need.
okay, okay, okay. So it's the taking responsibility that's
Yes.
more
If
important than the early
Valheim
access tag.
today turned into, if they publish it today, I'm buying it today and I'm playing it today so that I can call them out for shit happening and they can't say beta. You know what I mean? Like fuck that.
Yes, yeah. Though I will say, like my experience so far, there's been nothing I've really wanted to call out. I mean, the
I
odd like
sure. I
weird
don't. I
bug.
don't think I would have bad experience. I'm not. And
Yeah.
and my reasoning for this is not based on Valheim at all. I think Valheim is a great game,
Yeah.
and I want it to succeed.
Well, okay. Then yes, I think we both kind of agree that like we'd both be okay with big ships being released as quote unquote DLC.
Because when the
You
game
know, big
launches, you will have
big
a lot of fun
content
with like
modules.
normal size ships up to like non-capital ships, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's gonna be so much. There's multi-crew in like less than sub-capital ships as well, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
you can fly in squadrons, you can fly in big ships as well.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Hammerhead. Like you have like 5 Hammerheads and 2 what's the name, retaliators. Like sorry, but
Yeah.
that's like
Like
full
that's
on
multi-crew gameplay.
crazy
Yeah.
shit happening there, right?
Yeah.
But then Idris comes in a patch, and I was like, holy shit, let's get that Idris,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
head into the new system and explore, and and you've been warned. Without
Okay,
Idris,
well,
it's gonna be rough.
I guess like kind of branching off from there into the multi-crew conversation again. One of the things that we wanted to also talk about with respect to those big multi-crew things is like how I mean, we've already kind of like touched on this. Like, how do you get that to be entertaining for everyone on board? And one of the things that we talked about a little bit in the pre-show, just shifting gears here a little bit,
Sure.
um, was quantum jump. Like, okay, it's already a challenge to think of how they're going to keep things entertaining for everybody on board a multi-crew ship at the best of times. How do you do it? Like, how do you address quantum travel, which is
A-
like the World of Warcraft riding on a griffin, but
At least that's
arguably
scenic,
worse? Yeah, at least
It-
that's
But
scenic.
let me tell you something before you continue, because you need to
Sure.
carry this one, because I don't know what the fuck with the. I don't see this as a problem only for multi crew. I see it like
Fair enough. Yeah.
when I'm in my 300, 315, whatever, and I'm jumping from PO to New Babbage, I just I just want Alt F4, man. Like I've seen it so many times. It took so much of my life. If I'm not streaming and talking to someone else, why is that in game? Like, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I want that to be in game because it shows how big the game is, right? So
Yeah.
I don't
It
want that
does add to the
removed
sense of
from the
scale.
game, right?
Yeah.
But I need
Okay.
I need
Well,
something to happen, bro. Like it's
okay.
like,
Well,
what the fuck am I
well,
doing?
lead with what you were saying, like that people kind of suggested to you then as like as something that you're supposed to be doing when you're in quantum travel.
Yes.
You know, like you were saying that people were telling you that there's supposed to be like
The
mini
access
games that
points.
you're
So to put this in
yeah
perspective, I was flying Reliance San at the time, and Reliance San has, I think, 4 access points between the bridge and like the main area, like where the bathroom is, kind of, or whatever. And so these 4 access points should be something. And I really never realized, like, what the fuck are access points in the first place? Like, what do you do with that shit?
yeah.
I
Oh,
don't
you're
know.
asking me?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically supposed to be where you can get access to like other various components of your ship and potentially do maintenance on them. So I don't like that like what they gave you as the answer. Oh, you're supposed to, putter around your ship and fix things and do little
Oh,
mini games and
that's what
stuff
it
like
is.
that.
Okay.
Because like I mean that is something that has been proposed as something you could do, which is legitimate. Like, for example, if you just got out of a firefight or something and something is smoking back there, well, then, yeah, that's something you could do in quantum travel is potentially power down that component, go back and see what you can do to kind of like
Okay,
patch
but
it
that's
up.
like super situational. If the fire breaks
Yes, it
out,
is.
that's
But
an
this is the
event
thing.
for itself. Shouldn't be
This is
triggered
what I
by
think
quantum
this
jump.
is what I think is the mistake of the people who are suggesting this. They're
Yeah.
suggesting that as like that's what you do, you know?
Yeah. No.
Whereas
Yeah, I agree.
like what they've proposed,
I
at least
thought
as far as
access points
I've
can be
interpreted
used
it,
for something else. I don't know what.
mm,
Because I don't know
I
what the
don't
access point is. It's not a component slot.
wait, really? Oh, that's
No.
what we were talking about, is like where you open the panels up and you see your
I,
components.
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Because it's like there's these like perfect flat like surfaces, and and it says access points. I'm gonna look him up. Um, but
Okay,
keep
well,
going.
okay, so basically the idea behind what you do in quantum travel is that there is enough stuff to keep you there's enough variety of stuff from an MMO standpoint that keeps you busy basically while you're doing that.
Okay, but give
And
me
whether or not
examples.
they okay, so well, first of all, what they've said is that like right now, like you know how they've occasionally experimented with like being interdicted and it's mostly just a fucking pain in the ass and stuff
Sure.
like that.
Yeah.
Well, the idea behind that is that it's not necessarily a pain in the ass. Like that might be, you know how you were talking about like how like in an MMO you'd be wandering around and there'll be like a red nameplate and you'll be like, like have to deal with that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like one of the potential things they've said is that, the quanta system will drive encounters that are relevant to basically where you are, the risk levels involved, and stuff like that, right? So in part, one of the solutions is that or one of the things that's been proposed is that you aren't necessarily always making a fully uninterrupted jump. But
Okay, but that's same as fire. It's like
again,
an
again, like these,
occasional
but that,
event, right? I've sent you
that's
a picture, by
that's
the way,
kind
to
of
see what I'm talking about. And everyone who's watching this live or on YouTube, you can see it as well because it's on the
access
screen.
point. Yeah, I thought those were component access points.
I don't think those are components. Maybe
Because one
I'm
of the
wrong,
things
and
they've
like
talked
this was when
about,
I started playing the game, so you know, I just
one
don't
of
know.
the other thing they've talked about with access points is that like when they put in the power pipe system into your ship, like there's actual nodes and things like that like actual power nodes beyond just your components
Hmm.
that connect certain parts of your ship to certain other parts of your ship. But it does seem to be like that would be mostly maintenance related.
Okay.
But I don't know. But that's I guess the point I'm trying to get across is like what they've pitched so far is that there's enough situational stuff happening that at any given point you will have something to do. You're not just sitting there like do. It'll be either
Even in a small
repair,
ship. Okay, so tell me if
there'll be other
what if I'm
sorry?
jumping in a Buccaneer?
Yeah, well, and that point then basically they've been saying that there's like sensor returns that you'll be getting like as you're traveling, so you have the option to kind of divert.
Jump out.
Um, and then there's other things too to consider. Like they've talked about like how like those sorts of jumps would be situations where you'd be, potentially looking into like where you're going, doing your research, because like they always talk about like how preparation for missions is important, right?
See, I knew you were gonna bring this up, and I'll stop you right there. I'm gonna be prepared for the mission before I get into my ship, man. Like I'm not, especially when I'm flying a single
Okay.
seater, bro. Like what am I going to prepare? In, like, even 300i? What I have like like I have
Yeah, 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 I get you.
one
Like,
set of clothes.
I'm not trying to sell you on
I
anything
know, I
here,
know,
just
I
to
know,
be
I know.
clear. I'm
No,
just
no, I
saying, like,
know, I know.
that there's more, there's to just basically a stupid mini game, right? So, like, the other parts would be like, how in any MMO, like, there's times where you're going to be like chatting in guild or trying to line up a mission, like having a mission popping up and
Shit.
scrolling through, oh, what's available in this system?
Uh huh.
Or planning your next mission after that. Like if you're saying after this mission I'm going to go do some cargo hauling, well I'm going to start like looking at basically what I'm saying is like if the like from what they've proposed they want the game to be big enough and full enough that even in a situation where it is a longish travel time in a single direction, there's shit that you're probably going to want to do and you need those kind of like those moments of downtime to be able to like adequately absorb the information and do other stuff.
Yeah, go
Um,
pee. I don't know, but that's not.
yeah, potentially that too,
I
even,
know, dude, but
like
like, well, that I mean, not in game. I mean, like in real life.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, I know.
But in game, like in a Buccaneer, you just can't do it. I'm just taking that as an example.
I know.
But to be fair, fighters, in my opinion, it's like flak incoming. But I don't just small fighter, no quantum drive. Fuck that, dude. Like you know what I mean? I'm like
Well,
straight up, bro. Like if you don't have, if you're gonna jump through and you don't have a toilet seat, like I don't know, bro. Like maybe maybe you're doing it wrong.
here's the other thing too. They have they have really mentioned that small ships like fighter craft and stuff like that doing cross system jumps is not necessarily something that they even want to be
Cross
something where you
system
would
or cross planet?
cross system.
I'm not talking about that's. I'm talking about quantum jumping.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So like jumping from like let's even say like Crusader to Microtech.
That's not system.
That
That's
is a
planet.
system. That is a solar system. That's what I
What?
mean by cross system. You're
Ah,
crossing a solar
within
system.
one system. Okay, okay. So
Yes.
not
Yeah,
to
yeah,
another
yeah.
system. Okay.
No, 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 not jumping to
I
another
just
system,
honestly, if
but
like right now, if they said, okay, guys, single seater fighter fucking jets in space, we can't like they have no range and
I think they're going
there's
that direction.
it's
You know what?
pointless to jump with the
Yeah.
Mustang Alpha to jump across the system. It's just like
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
Like one, you're gonna have to stop like 4 times for fuel. Well, and this is the thing, like the reason that I think that they're going that direction is because initially when we were able to actually jump across like 2 different planets, the range of smaller ships was so small, or rather the speed of the jump was so long in a in a small fighter that it was painful. Like you think a 5
We
minute
need
trip
another
is long now.
jump. Holy shit!
It
Right?
was like twice that, at least, to get across system before. But they changed it because they got too much flack because right now we only have one system and there's no ways to really get
See,
across
I don't know this.
system otherwise.
New players don't know this. That's crazy.
Yeah, see, this was a while ago.
And
This is
this
like
is
when
the
they just
solution,
put
like
Kirsten in.
to my problem because listen, if I'm jumping in Andromeda or Carrack,
That's what
I'm gonna
literally those
prep
ships are
food. I'm
designed.
gonna,
Yeah,
I'm gonna set up my ground vehicle. I'm gonna,
yeah.
like there's things to do. That's fine. But if
See,
I'm jumping in, I don't know.
yeah, and I will okay, I'll be clear to everybody listening. Putting this is me like putting disparate
Yeah, but
pieces
yeah.
of information together and like giving a best guess or an estimate anyways because yeah, so on top of the fact that quantum travel used to take way longer in a smaller ship and they tweaked it literally under the conditions saying that this isn't permanent. This is just something we're doing for quality of life right now.
Okay.
Um uh and then on top of the fact that Chris has absolutely said that he wants fighters to be carrier based and to be short
Exactly.
range,
Yes, thank you.
um,
I was about to
that's
say
why,
that.
like, for example, he took away fuel scooping. He does not want small fighter crafts, like dedicated fighters, to be able to fuel scoop, because he wants them to be range limited. Um,
But then
then
I
on
would
top
say
of
like
that,
every ship that has interior, even the Aurora, you know what I mean? It has a bed. The whole back of the ship can be a fucking engine. It was the first ship, like one of the first ships with quantum
no, it
drive.
wasn't.
It wasn't the
No,
first
we
one, but it was right the first civilian used.
It
Right? We
it
talked
was
about
one of
this.
the first, like, even then, no, the Aurora's, like, ways down. The Zeus was the first, quantum capable,
Yeah.
commercial ship,
Uh
like,
huh.
one that, like, could be obtained by
But we know Auroras can
government.
jump, right? So,
Yes.
and I'm
But,
okay with
okay,
that.
now
Aurora has a bed. It has a little bit of interior.
even then, continuing on with that, basically, they have said even recently that they are aiming to have the amount of content available in a planet's within the planet and the moons so that you aren't moving from one planet to the other frequently. Like that to me says that they absolutely don't want these smaller ships doing these long jumps. And when you are doing those long jumps, yeah,
Here's the
it's going to take
problem.
a long time.
The Aurora, like, is like Mustang is made for fighting content.
Mhm.
But how do you start if you're an explorer, future explorer, and you start with a basic ship, right? You have
You're not doing it in Aurora.
isn't
I'm
one
sorry.
of the Auroras like exploration based?
I mean, maybe, but like, but this is the thing. Like, people always assume that exploration means long distance. It doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, but like cross planet or planet to moon.
Yeah, or just down on that planet doing exploration gameplay.
You want to tell me
Uh,
Aurora should not be able to jump from?
Oh, it might
person
be able to, but it's
to.
gonna fucking take you a long time, so you better be prepared to
Th-
do that jump.
Yeah, but you still are you punishing me for starting in a game and you're gonna let me like rot
No,
for
what they're
half an hour
saying
and do nothing?
no, what they're saying is basically you gotta start doing the maybe stuff down on a planet within an interplanetary like, or within a, like, a planet and its moons first before you get to do the long distance shit.
If a ship can jump, it shouldn't be as tedious as what's happening right now.
I think that's where they really are going to need to differentiate between these ships, right? Like even right now with quantum times the way they are, it almost like it's a few minutes difference doing a cross system jump in a an Avenger with a decent drive to like something with a crossfield. Like actually go on to Urkel or Hardpoint.io and look at the actual jump
Yeah,
times.
but these
It's
are not
literally
the
a
actual
couple
jump
minutes
times,
difference.
right?
That's what I'm saying. Um, so in order to differentiate between this small little Aurora and an MSR, like the distance, the long distance travel is going to be one of those things that differentiates between it.
The thing about I don't mind. It can last 5 times longer. I don't give a shit. Because in
Mm,
MSR, I'm gonna set the jump drive and then I'm gonna fucking get out of my chair and go
true.
prepare lunch
Yeah,
or whatever the
but guess
fuck,
what?
clean my room. You know what I
The
mean? Like,
the times where you're doing the jumps that are gonna take 5 minutes, where you can actually go and, like, wander around your ship and stuff like that, are ones where you're jumping from, like, R Corp to Microtech or further potentially, because like, it isn't even some of the biggest
shit, it's
systems,
a small
and
system. I know.
yeah, and not to mention the fact that, like, there's stuff outside of that orbit, like, that's where the exploration is gonna happen. When you're scanning stuff down that's, like, beyond the orbit of Microtech, and you gotta jump to it. Um, you know, and that's things where like, yeah, potentially you could even do that in Aurora if you somehow manage to have an efficient enough drive or a
I
big enough
should
fuel
not be
tank.
able
Different.
to be, to get that drive in the Aurora if I
Sure,
can't
maybe not,
do
maybe not, maybe
anything.
not. But
Because what fucking gameplay is that? It
yeah,
sucks balls, dude. It's fucking
yeah.
as boring as
But
fuck. What you're telling me is
sure.
I want you to alt tab from my game and do something else while
Okay.
you're
Well
jumping.
then
you
then I
know?
go back to the original solution, which is basically that like the Aurora isn't meant to do those sorts of trips. So, like if you're going to be jumping that far, don't do it in Aurora. Or, do the stuff that's closer range, make some money, get a dir, then go do that jump. Like I don't think it's unreasonable to
Bro, I
say that
want
there's some content
ships.
you
I
can't
want you to work your
access.
ass off to get a freelancer. You know what I mean? That's what I want.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I want to start with
sure.
the Aurora. Oh, damn right. And I want bigger ships to be
Okay.
like group. Well, this is just
Oh
my
yeah, that's what
wish,
they're
right?
that's
I
what they're that's what they're expected to be. They've literally
I
said
hope so.
you can actually go back when they unveiled the Hammerhead and Chris was talking about it and they were asking him how much it's going to cost and like whether or not you could grind to it and he basically said no, it's supposed to be something that you go
Corp,
into
right? It's a
with a group.
corp achievement. Yeah.
Exactly.
Getting a ship like that.
Like that is not something that they expect the average player to be able to earn. I mean, of course you can,
Well, I mean,
but
you can
like
buy Alpha UEC, or UEC, so of course you can do whatever the fuck you
or you could
want.
play for fucking 2 years solid grinding to get it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the point, right?
I mean,
But like as
obviously,
far as
when you get the ship, like, there, I want that ship to start making more money. So,
yeah,
the
exactly.
next thing, so then you can buy Auroras easily if you want to, like whatever, and then sell them somewhere else, whatever, where they need them, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Or keep them as commuters. That's what I
yeah.
plan on doing. I plan on like, working to buy a bunch of like smaller ships that I can just kind of keep around so that anywhere I end up, I have a ship available to me.
But who's gonna pay upkeep for all that?
Maybe me. We'll see.
I hope
We'll
you
see how it
can't just
works.
leave ships where the fuck you want and it costs nothing. That would
Mm,
be
this is
crazy.
one. Well, yeah. I don't think it's going to cost nothing,
If you
unless,
have
of
if you have
course.
your own
Here's the
hangar,
thing.
then sure,
But
right?
that's the thing. This is it. Okay, I'm opening another can of worms here. But you know how every time you buy a ship, it comes with a hangar.
Eh, you
That's
get
one
one
of the
hanger,
things that
right?
they've
Like it just
That's one of the
upgrades.
things they've said.
I think you get one hanger with any amount of ships. Just like you get the highest, like the ship just upgrades your hanger.
Mm-mm. Nope. This is one of the things they've said that's potentially a benefit of backing early is that if you have those hangers, that is a hanger that you can basically say, I have a hanger on ArcCorp and I'll use that hanger for it. And then I have this other hanger that came with this ship, so I have a hanger on Microtech. And but we ultimately don't know. That's just something they've floated as
But
a
I guess like
potential idea.
anyways, even if it's like that, like well, obviously it can change these things. But like even if it's like
Mhm.
that, like when you buy a ship in game, you don't get the hanger
Hmm,
with it. Like you can probably buy hanger in game as
exactly.
well, but
You can, but that costs you money, right? Whereas
and
like potentially
especially like size wise, right?
the ones that you're getting with the ships that you ordered are potentially maybe they floated the idea anyways, like a free hanger basically that you can just have. So you
Pay to
could
win.
potentially pay for convenience, that's for
Yeah.
sure. I don't know, is that winning?
What is winning in Star Citizen? So yes, it is.
Oh man, we just went there. We
Uh,
just went
well, I mean
there.
that's another thing. Like if we at some point we got to talk about this because if you can buy Alpha UEC, well
Yeah.
UEC, then you can sell ships. I don't care. Like like that's the ridiculous part where they're like, "Oh, you will never be able to buy ships, but you will be able to buy currency." Like, and I'm like, what does that even mean? That means I can buy ships. It's like that.
Yeah, the
Like what?
difference
Again, my intelligence is being attacked here. Like, am I?
no, see,
What?
and this is the thing, they have kinda clarified on that too, like, yes, they realize that you could buy currency and then buy a ship, but they flat out said that if you think the ships are expensive now, try buying enough currency to
It
be able to
doesn't
afford them.
matter, Maso. There are people who buy
Sure,
a
but those are
bicycle for $600 and never say who bought it. It's in my living room right now. So
sure,
some people just have
that's
money, like whatever.
yeah, that's the thing. How many of them though? How many of your player
Many.
base are gonna be able to do that? And
I don't know.
is that going to be the norm? Absolutely not.
Nah,
They're
but
like,
come on, let's not be stupid.
if
They're
it
gonna make it so that
okay,
you feel incentivized to spend money. Come on, bro.
sure. But it won't be like the people who are dropping that amount of cash to full on just buy a ship, like we're gonna be talking thousands of dollars.
We don't know that.
We
They
we have a
need.
good
They have
idea.
marketing team, and they're
Here's how
gonna
it's gonna
make it
work.
so that you feel like you can afford ship for real life money.
Here's how
You
it's gonna
can cut
work.
my both arms if this is not true. Like and something else. Dongle.
No,
Like
here's how it's gonna work. Because they want you playing the game. So you'll play the game and you'll be grinding and you'll be grinding from that freelancer and you'll get to a point where it's just like, ah, all I need is let's say 100 grand more. And instead of grinding that extra 100 grand, that's where you're like, but it only cost me 20 bucks if I just bought that 100 grand.
it's not gonna be like that. I'll tell you right
So
now.
I'm just gonna shell out like instead of grinding the extra 10 hours, I'm just gonna shell out for that extra 100 grand and then I'm gonna get my freelancer. Or I'm gonna use it for components and stuff like that. We shall see. Oh, you made one.
No, I
That's
didn't. Ships will cost less money when the game releases than now.
that is
Real money.
if they do that, that is literally direct contravention to what has been said repeatedly by CR and a
CR
bunch of
is
other
not
people.
marketing team. And CR likes money. If marketing team explains to him that, hey,
Yeah,
you
but
want to make
CR likes
money,
people playing his game.
good
If the
luck.
game is a dead game because everybody just dumps money into it
That's not
and
gonna kill the
then gets
game. It's
bored
gonna
and
kill it the
leaves,
same way, man. If you allow people to buy cash in game, but it makes no sense to buy, then you wouldn't even sell the cash in game. Are you kidding me? Are you
see, that's the
playing
thing.
games, bruh?
Like, I don't understand if I like, personally, like, I don't understand how my solution isn't what that's how my brain works. Like, if I'm going if you give me okay, if it's gonna cost let's say it takes 60 hours to grind up a ship,
Hmm.
and I'm like, "Okay, it's cool. I'm enjoying playing this game. Grind, grind, grind." I grind, 40 out of 60 of those hours, and I'm just like, "Oh," you know? Like, I don't wanna grind these extra 20 hours. How much is it gonna cost me to not have to do that? That's where I'm gonna do it. But if
My brain
you
doesn't work like that. If I made it over 50%, I'm fucking doing it because I feel personal achievement for
no,
doing it to
yeah,
the end.
that's
That's it.
definitely not how I play. And like, and absolutely, then like, especially too, like if it costs, let's say it cost $1,000 to get, let's just say an Andromeda, just random. Like, let's say it costs like $1,000 worth of currency to buy an
I think it's
Andromeda.
gonna cost $100 of currency to buy Andromeda.
Yeah, I know you've said that. I don't
Yeah.
believe that, but like, but we'll see ultimately.
Yep.
But like, but here's my
If you
logic.
don't
Like,
die
if
before it comes out.
yeah, if we don't die, yes. But if I am like, if I'm there and I'm like $1,000, are you fucking kidding me? No. I want to play this game anyways. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna get in game. And then I get like I said, like 60% or like 70% of the way through,
And
and I'm
then you're
going,
gonna
oh
pay
my God.
$300 for that Andromeda when you're 30% to it. Come
Okay,
on,
300 bucks is
man.
probably still more than I'm gonna cough up.
But that's what
But
I'm
like
saying, dude. This makes
if it
no
games
sense. It has to
it does
be
make sense, because
achievable.
if it gets to the point where it's like, if it's like 10 hours away or $20, I'm gonna choose the $20 because my 10 hours is worth
Sure.
way fucking more to me than 20 bucks.
I agree. This is why the ship will be $100 and not like $1,000 Andromeda. Bruh, if you put this on paper, other games are doing it as well. You'll understand that I am right. I'm sorry, but this one, I'm telling you right now, you've heard it here first. When the game comes out, it will cost less money in currency to buy a ship than what you guys are spending right now on ships. And this, I know you're gonna hate me for this, but this is okay and a legit thing because you know what? You're not buying fucking ships. Read what you're buying. You're funding the project. In return, you get
Never gonna
something to
happen, man. They would
play
get
with.
fucking
I am
crucified if they did that.
100% sure this will happen. And it would not
Okay.
be it's just a normal thing that's happening in all games. It's just not a strange thing. Because they want to sell ships, dude. Are you kidding me? Or they want to make unless if they say okay, no MTX at all, or like MTX only like visual stuff. Which in that case, like if they're not selling ships and not if they change their idea of like we're not selling ships. We're not selling Alpha UC. You guys who bought Alpha UC in beta, you can melt it, buy something with it right now. We're not going to sell it anymore. It's not
They've
going to
already
be
done
worth
that one.
much.
So yeah,
I'm
they'll
just
do
yeah.
that.
And so we're only selling skins, certain skins for the ships, Pico to put into your Andromeda, whatever interior and stuff like that. Then, and we're not selling ships for money ever again. In that case, I agree with you 100%. If they're selling currency, not Alpha UEC, but UEC, I am guaranteeing you're going to be paying currency less money to buy a ship than what you're paying the ship right now.
Well,
100%.
this basically comes down to, again, like,
But I want
they
the
said they're
first
not gonna
the
do it,
first
and
solution.
they
I want the first solution. I want them to like sell money like this. But if they're selling money like that, that's how it's going to happen. Sorry for
I
interrupting here.
think, well, okay, honestly, first of all, just with respect to selling currency, like, if they don't, it's gonna be gold farmers.
Sure.
So the reason that they've said that they wanna sell the currency legit is because they they don't want the currency farmers.
If you overprice the currency, then hey, World of
There will
Warcraft
be
has it.
undercuts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
World of Warcraft has it.
um,
Guess what? People are
nobody
buying
uses them
from
because it's
farmers.
cheaper.
No, people use it,
Yeah.
but more people
No,
are
it's
buying from farmers.
mm.
That's bullshit,
But
man. Like
I
that's just their like, okay, so how do we sell it and people are okay with it? Ha, let's blame the farmers.
I think, well, okay.
It's an unavoidable thing. Like there's no way you're
I
not gonna have like people selling.
This was to be fair, this was back in like 2012, literally, when, like, when the whole when
Sure,
MMOs
before
were more of
marketing
a thing.
happened, right? Okay. Hit me up.
But if they sell currency flat out, I'll just say no. It won't be less than what we pay now. I don't think there's any way they'd get away with that. But I
They
agree
don't
with
have
you in
to get
that
away with it.
personally, I would prefer the first option with just
Ah,
with just
well, we agree 100%,
yeah,
1000%, right?
yeah.
But I'm just gonna tell you now, they have nothing to get away with because if they sell you a ship for, let's take Andromeda for example, 225 euros right now for Andromeda, right? They, that's how they sell you the ship, and it's your ship, LTI,
Mhm,
whatever the fuck, you're good.
mhm.
What they're selling you later has nothing to do with that ship. So they're not selling you ship now for $100.
Yeah.
They're selling you currency, and then with that currency, you can buy it off the market or do something else with that.
You
So
know what I just thought of?
what?
I thought of a situation in which you could be right.
A player sells you a ship.
Yep.
I know, man. I'm telling you, there's no way. There's no way. Like, we will never
If you
pay
bought
this
it
much money for ships, bro. And
if
I
you
am
bought
okay with
it
this because I'm
brand new from a
funding the project.
store if you
It's
bought it
still gonna
brand
be
new from a
cheaper.
store, I could see it being more expensive.
No
No, I absolutely
fucking way.
couldn't.
There's no way.
Okay, well, then we agree on that. We
You,
agree to disagree on that one because I
sure,
think you're wrong. But
sure. That's fair.
but but the situation where they could end up being cheaper is the used ship market. And honestly, that's not even necessarily just from players because they have said that
Yeah,
there
the
will be
NPCs.
like NPC, like used ships kind of thing, where you're buying a ship that's potentially a rat bagged piece of shit for cheaper, but it is an
So,
Andromeda.
so what prevents me from you wiring me like 50 bucks and I give you Andromeda in game for like 5 alpha AVC?
Well, nothing. But yeah, I'm not going to argue with you on like
But this is where the
on the
argument is, because they need to make it so that you spend money in game rather than giving it to me. Man, that's what you need to understand. Like, this is why pricing needs to be lower than what it is now. Because no matter how much it takes, okay, listen, how much is Javelin?
Here's the thing.
Wait.
Now,
How much is
see,
Javelin? How much Javelin right now?
I don't even know what it is on the gray market. I think it's 3 grand.
Okay, 3 grand. I can live.
Could be more.
I can live a whole year for 3 grand, right? In Serbia, I will. I will get the Javelin and sell it to you for 2 grand, and they will not sell
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, well, that's ultimately it, and I think, like, frankly, they were even aware of the fact that by selling currency, they weren't going to eliminate the gold farmer problem. They were going to set
So
a
it's a
hard
lie.
cap.
Well, yeah,
No,
but they
because they
want to
even
sell
said,
it. They want to sell it again. They will try and sell you the money instead of you buying it from me and giving me money, because then they're not gaining anything. And this
sure,
is
yeah, there's
this.
no way to eliminate a gold farming
No,
in
no,
an
and they
MMO.
know
Everybody
this.
knows
They're
that,
just an
but
escape plan, right?
they can set a legit method so that, 1, it's secure. They capitalize it. On 2, they set a cap on what other people can do, as what other people can offer as far as gold farming goes.
Oh,
Well, no gold farmer is going to sell money UEC for more than it costs on the RSI store.
oh, yeah, but it needs to be reasonable because
Otherwise, people are going to go the non-legit route. Sure, I agree with you
do you
there.
know how much $1 is in like Malaysia? You kidding me, bro? Like
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
exchanged $100 in Bali, Indonesia, and I had more than million rupees, and they looked at me as a fucking god. So
hmm
so, and this is who farms your gold. It's not Chinese. It's Indonesian. It's Malaysian, and they will. This will feed their families. So
sure,
that's what you have to fight with. And good luck,
yeah.
bro. There's a lot
But
of
it
them,
also
and they have a lot of time.
But what that does, though, too, is it does negate who can do it. Now you're limiting it to those kind of more lower cost areas because
Well, yeah.
somebody in somebody like you said in China, it's not
Oh, they do it as well.
enough. Well,
Oh,
sure,
yes, it
maybe,
is
but
enough.
but
If they
like
can make off
that's
of
what I'm
World of
saying
Warcraft,
it
then
reduces the amount of countries that can participate
brah, like
in
these countries
aftermarket
have
gold farming.
so many people, and they do it like it's like an operation, and yeah, even if you have like millions of players, there's gonna be that many gold farmers if they
Yeah,
can
maybe.
sell. So come on,
I
it's
don't
been
know.
proven in every fucking MMO. The only way that like I don't, there's no way around it.
Yeah,
The
but
only way
Eve
around
does
is
it.
you can't trade. That's it. You can't do that, right?
Eve sells ISK and currency and shit like that, and that seems to work okay.
So it
Well, it's
But
what all I'm saying is
the
like people
problem, the
buy from
difference
the
with
ships
Eve
who are
is
there.
they're not dictating the market pricing. So every ship in Eve is made by a player, and the price is set by a player, right? So
Hmm.
they're selling ISK, and the quantity like is based on Plex, which is your monthly subscription. That's the only way. Like that's the only variable. So it,
Okay. Well, they've also said that the prices in Star Citizen are going to flux as well. So, I mean, be more or less market price, but I suppose they do have control over that
what
as
was the
well.
last thing we did a bet on?
It was whether or not we were going to see space whales in when they release Origin, and you won that one. I already gave you your
True.
gift subs.
You ready for the next one? But this will be
It's going to
long
be
term.
whether or not
Chips are
ships
cheaper.
in
Yeah.
game. Okay, we should write this down so we don't
Write
forget.
it
I'm gonna
down.
write it.
€100 on this one.
Okay.
I could say more, but I don't want to like go nuts. But like €100 when the game is released, if they are selling UEC, it will be cheaper to buy ships for money than now.
Okay. So when game releases, real money cost with purchased
UEC, right?
UEC cheaper than uh
Backing
current
for the ships, whatever.
prices. Current real money prices. Okay.
I'm so confident in this. Like, there's no way this goes any other way, except for if they don't
Okay,
sell
what
it.
happens? Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
No,
So what
then
happens if they
nothing
don't
happens. That's
sell
fine.
currency?
Then we both win, so whatever, right? Because
100
both of
euros for
us,
both of
yeah.
us.
I mean, I'd sacrifice €100 right now, even though I'm poor as fuck, for them to say like,
And not sell currency?
yeah, I'm like Xylo and Lando. I'll give you $50 each if you prove that you're not gonna sell currency and ships. We're good.
Honestly, you know what? The more I'm thinking about this, the more I'm realizing that with how with how much money has been demonstrated by other games for just like consumables or not consumables, cosmetics and stuff like that, it wouldn't surprise me at all for them to just shift to a position where, you know,
Of
where
course,
they're just doing that
and
instead.
that
Because
doesn't
like
bother me at
honestly,
all.
it's probably more money than selling currency
Sure.
anyways.
I just want the shit that I can buy, visual shit I can buy for real money is different than shit that I can buy in game, because I want to see a person who bought it in game and be like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, nice
Plus,
motherfucker."
also, you know what? Now that I think about it, like the way that they're setting this game up, it's not like WoW, you where you can just like set up a bunch of bots to go and like grind
Well,
for
don't
gold,
do
right?
not underestimate the power of
I
bots.
guess, but like,
They find
I don't know,
ways.
man. Maybe. At any rate, they might find a way, but it's going to be more intensive than it is for World of Warcraft. Simply from like a system resources standpoint. Like in order to run a Star Citizen client, the amount of resources it'll take compared to being able to run a client of World of Warcraft, like
Hey,
way
listen,
different.
as long as it's less profitable than mining Bitcoin, they're good, right?
Yeah,
Right? I mean,
that's true. Yeah. Like that shit's guaranteed income right now. But
yeah, but by the time like in 10 years when Star Citizen comes out, we might not even have Bitcoin anymore, like, or
oh
anything like that.
no,
Or
there'll be plenty of cryptos out there.
let's see. Unless big powers want to put the stop on it. It all depends of.
We totally deviated
Yes,
from
we did.
quantum travel.
But it was good conversation. I like this.
Yeah,
All right. So, well, I mean, we did talk about quantum travel enough.
I guess, yeah.
So you want to go into
Supposedly
your?
there's supposed to be shit to do, but we'll see.
Let's see. Yeah, you did not really convince me that, but I do
Oh, I don't
agree. I kind of like this is how
that's
I feel about the whole thing. Sorry, I don't think they know what they're gonna do with it. You know what I mean?
that's it, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't think I don't I think it'll, like, that sort of stuff will be adjusted when you have all the game mechanics in, and that just makes sense, right? Like, if you can't balance for something that you don't have the mechanics for in the first place, right? So
Sure.
that's kind of it, right? Like I think ultimately, yeah, like all we have right now is like their intentions. But yeah, no, we can move on to zero effort.
Well,
Next section is absolute zero effort science, and this is another one. This is another topic that I've been kind of like taking down the road for a few weeks now,
we had like
just for
really
good news.
busy episode, and we had
Yeah,
one where we had to call it early, which is all
yeah,
fine. So this is where we came back to some, and it's like kind of silence before the storm situation right now. So it's a perfect place where we can like go back and
yeah,
reflect on what we left behind. I like this. It's
totally.
amazing. Yeah.
Catch up episode.
Yeah. That's what it is.
um. Okay, so this time around, this zero effort section is kind of was actually inspired by a video that Captain's Table put out, one of his new podcasts, which is like a lore podcast. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Um,
I'll find it. Don't worry. Go on.
but but basically they were kind of analyzing some of the lore behind like the scene of Star Citizen, like where they are kind of in the current universe. And one of the things that apparently the writers in Star Citizen are kind of setting up as a theme for excuse me, the universe of Star Citizen
It's
is
called
that
Lore Citizen. Sorry.
lore citizen, yes. So is that humanity is getting to a point where they're starting to struggle with overpopulation and overexploitation of resources in the systems they control, and simultaneously being in a situation where they're hemmed in essentially on all sides by other empires, so no real room to expand anymore. And this is one of the situations where Star Citizen definitely doesn't have it right.
Yeah, when
um,
like if it's gamified, okay
yeah,
for the sake of it, but
that's
like
okay.
if when
Yes,
reality kicks in, it's not really right.
this is kind of it, right? Like I understand that they're trying to build a narrative,
Mm.
and that this is it is something where they're trying to create an interesting story. But the reality is that if you are an interplanetary and interstellar civilization, there's almost no situations realistically when you crunch the numbers where you would be dealing with overpopulation,
Well, you
or
had a
even resource
number
exploitation.
that you brought up that what's the population of Earth that Earth
Mm,
can deal with?
yeah, okay, so literally, if you watch Isaac Arthur, who is a futurist who likes to basically take like future ideas and then actually run the numbers on them. He's got a PhD in physics. Um, and yeah, so basically what he's done is he and his team crunched the numbers, and given certain levels of technology, um, did kind of like an analysis of how many people Earth could support, and it is literally in the trillions of people. Um,
We're close to that number. Yeah.
Yeah, and his logic is, and that's not even like at that point too, you wouldn't even necessarily be crowded. Like that's basically with every person on the planet having about 1,000 square feet of space. So what would that be? 300 square meters. That's with
Whoa,
every person
that's a
having
big
that.
apartment.
Yeah.
And
And
he probably did not even account plagues, COVIDs and shit like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
like
yeah,
world
no, no. He's
wars,
talking he's
like
talking
the sheer
simply
number,
about
right?
like
Yeah.
sheer number. And that's like at that point too, like with his math, that's not even fully covering the planet with cities. That's like, like there's still a significant amount of space left over for wildlife and for the earth to be wild. And and basically that's using technologies that we can conceive of now. So that's if we had sustainable fusion power, and advanced construction materials like graphene and carbon nanotubes and stuff like that. With those two technologies alone, we could basically have all the food we'd want from indoor farming, from giant vertical farms, um, because the
Bro,
essentially what it
China
comes
needs
down
to
to
do
there.
this like now.
Well, this is the thing. Right now, it's tricky because you need the energy to be able to grow those crops. So you need, and if you're going to do it indoors, that means that that energy has to come from power, like power generators and stuff like that.
But can't you like have
And
like micro like nuclear power generators?
yeah, yeah, you could do it nuclear, but it wouldn't be micro. Like you'd need a ton of power. Fusion power
Okay.
gives us that opportunity, but you don't even necessarily need fusion power. The other technology basically that could allow for something like this to be a reality is just orbital power satellites. So right now, basically with solar power on the ground, the efficiency of every solar panel is actually pretty small because one, the power conversion rate of sunlight that hits that solar panel um, isn't perfect. So I think the maximum efficiency you get is like 20%. Not to mention, the sunlight has to come through all of our Earth's atmosphere, all the
Yeah.
air, and those photons lose energy the entire way through there.
Well, yeah,
And then
this
on
is
top of that,
understandable, right? Like, if you have, if you harness the power of the sun outside of Earth's atmosphere, you can have
exactly.
100% of harnessing time, plus
And it
it's
never, it never, it's not cloudy,
yeah.
like there's never
But
situations where
here's my question: like,
weather,
how do you transfer this energy down to Earth?
microwave.
We can do that.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
We
Okay.
can do that now, honestly. Like we have the technology to do that now. You beam it down with microwaves, and honestly, they've done the math on that too. So there's been a concern like, okay, well, what happens if somebody flew through that microwave beam?
Ah.
They've actually done the math on that, and it would raise your you'd feel a little bit warm flying through it.
E-
Um,
Yeah. Well, all the 5G lunatics would come up and like
of
burn
course
the
they would.
planet down. I don't know,
So
but
so
yeah.
don't fly through them. Basically, they probably wouldn't. You probably wouldn't be flying airplanes
These
through
would
them
be like
anyways.
fixed,
Exactly.
fixed
They'd be
rotations when yeah that happens or whatever.
geostationary orbits.
Yeah.
Like they'd be beaming the power down in specific zones.
We need to start
So
building
like
islands though, because
yeah,
yeah, we might end
yeah.
up being underwater,
Seasteading.
so that's the problem.
Dude, seasteading, that's another situation, like and that's something he mentions in the video as well. Like, what is it? 70%, 80% of our planet's surface is water, Like, it is
Yeah.
entirely possible to build, it's called seasteading, basically giant floating platforms that are
Yeah.
similar to, like, oil rigs are,
There's
but
a game like
modular.
that where you like build the whole population
Yeah,
on a
and they're
raft kind of.
mobile, and they can connect and disconnect from each other. He does another episode on that,
Yeah.
but, like, utilizing technology like that alone allows us to basically support, in relative luxury, populations in, like, hundreds of billions to trillions of people. So, with those sorts of numbers in mind, with those relatively basic technologies, there is no way a civilization like the UEE and Star Citizen would ever be running out of space unless we're talking about literally population levels in the like hundreds of quadrillions. And
Ah,
even then, we're not like now we're just talking about planets. And honestly, gravity wells are for suckers. Like if you're an interstellar species and you have these advanced construction materials, which we clearly do, given the spaceships we're flying around, you would just build space stations that were thousands of kilometers long, hundreds of kilometers wide, and were basically inside, basically almost indistinguishable from a planet's surface. They'd have,
here's the
like
thing though. I I see how this in vacuum this theory can work. But it's almost like you are forgetting about the human factor. And I
which is
think that self-destruction, nuclear
hmm,
weapons.
okay.
So I think that's where they can steer this story through. Where like we're just stupid, man. Like we're just gonna fuck this planet up to a point where we can't live on it anymore, except in some like domes or something, because the air needs filtering or whatever. Fuck, we
Okay.
fucked up the solar
So then why
system.
aren't we
The oceans are polluted. The
Okay,
fish is
so then
dying. So
why aren't we living in giant orbital space stations then
because we
that are
didn't get to
basically
develop, I don't know, I don't
okay.
know, but you know what I mean.
However,
But
this is what I'm saying. Yes, I see what you're saying, but also like in the Star Citizen universe, clearly we got past that point.
okay, fair, yeah.
So
Well,
cuz like
because
we're
we want to
already
live
on
on the we want to live on a planet. Like that's our thing. Like why not live on Terra if it's a
Sure.
beautiful
Do
place,
that too.
and we
Or
can,
basically what
right?
I'm saying is like you could create space stations that were large enough basically to
I know
house,
we talked about
you
this,
know,
right?
millions of peoples and are perfect paradises because you can literally build any ecosystem you want in them.
I know we
Um,
talked about this. Like I would rather live on a
okay,
planet than
sure,
in that,
you
right?
might, but I wouldn't care.
Sure, but
I'd
that's
be perfectly happy
it's
living on, and
fine.
that's what
So
I'm
that
saying.
some people can live here, some people can live there.
Sure,
That's fine, right? So
exactly.
that's okay.
And if that's the case, then man, like you got so much space. You have so much space. It's like hell. If it's cheaper to live on a space station that's
Bro, but
beautiful and
here's
like
wait,
awesome
wait.
than it is
I
out on a
agree.
planet,
But wait, you can kill planet Earth's ecosystem. That's the problem.
yeah,
We are definitely capable of killing
sure,
planet Earth's ecosystem. Just pollute the
yeah.
oceans, you're done, right?
Look on
We're done.
Hurston,
We're
man.
done, right? Look at Hurston, exactly,
Hurston's
yeah,
already done that.
right.
Yeah, like
But like we are not that far from polluting oceans enough for species to start like just flipping
yeah,
over, and
we're
then
already
this
in a
will
mass extinction.
exactly, and this is already like see what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there can be a famine, there can be reasons for us to have to
Yes.
evacuate Earth.
If we were stuck on Earth, then yes, that
Yeah.
would be the case. However, in Star Citizen, we are in a universe where we occupy multiple star systems with multiple habitable planets, and we have easy interstellar travel. Like there's just no real situation where we would ever be struggling with overpopulation. And then on top of that, okay, so then the counter came. Well, okay, what about resources then? You know, because like you have to be able to produce food for all
Well,
those
only if we
people. You
fuck
have
them
to be
up.
able to,
Like otherwise,
you
we're
know,
good, right?
you have to be able to provide, materials and things like that. But that's the other thing. Like you consider the sheer scale of space and the amount of material that is out there and able to be harvested. Like it is just like it's just mind-boggling. And then on top of that, if you have advanced technologies and material sciences at a level where we can travel amongst the stars easily, let me tell you, taking a planet apart for its metals at the core, no big deal, you know? Like and then we're talking literally gigatons of useful metals and materials and stuff like that when you start being able to literally take apart planets. So, yeah, unfortunately, in this situation, Star Citizen, the direction they're taking it is absolutely not grounded in any sort of scientific fact
But is it
at the end
bad?
of the day.
Because I will fight
Uh
you on this. Maybe it's not true, but is it believable for someone who is not
yes.
a nerd on the level that you are?
This is it. This and that is basically where Paul and Jail came back. Um, like ultimately it is a narrative that
Yeah.
they're trying to progress. And there's nothing necessarily bad about it, but I do feel like they missed a lot of opportunities to tell really interesting and unique stories, even for the people who aren't ultra nerds like me. And
I I don't think
that's where I'm not mad Star Citizen, I'm not mad CIG, I'm just disappointed.
I see. I think I don't want to say I think you're wrong, but because you're not wrong, obviously.
Well, the numbers say I'm not
Yeah, yeah,
wrong,
yeah,
but yeah.
by the numbers, but by their decision not to go into this because we go back to like if you go, you can overwhelm your player base because if you go into weeds for
Sure.
this, like you
Yeah,
can
it
go into
has to
weeds
be
for
relatable.
everything, right? So and then
Sure.
this game becomes like fucking encyclopedia of knowledge, which I want to play a
That's
game, bro. You
that's
know,
the thing,
like
man. I think they could have spun a much like, they could have used some of these more realistic, aspects to spin, an equally interesting and relatable and modernly like poignant kind of story, but they didn't. They chose not to. They chose to do something more cliche, and that's why I'm disappointed. Like I'm still gonna play it, and I still respect that this is a story that the
oh,
writers are trying to
sure.
tell. I just think they missed a lot of cool opportunities to tell stories of what like the issues humanity might be fighting 900 years down the future, down the road.
You know what would be cool? We don't really know how the pyramids were made, right?
Not
We don't
specifically.
really
Yeah.
know, right? We're still
Yeah.
kind of puzzled with that. Like, how the fuck did they make it? You know?
Yeah.
And you know why this happened? Because we lost a thread somewhere, right? In knowledge, like we
Mm,
couldn't
yeah.
transfer the knowledge from point one to point B, from A to point B. Somewhere the chain broke, right?
Yeah.
And it'd be cool if like we have this lore now, and then you're an explorer and historian in game, you know, and you're
Mhm.
like, wait, this is not how it happened.
That would be really
It's like a
interesting,
hidden,
actually.
you know, hidden lore
Yeah.
that actually explains that. Nah, we did not do that.
Yeah. Because and
How
actually
cool would
that's
that
something to
be?
be said. Like they the writers have actually said that if you're paying attention to the lore, yeah, this wasn't 900 years of solid advancement of the human species. Like there were definitely ups and downs. There
Mm.
were times where basically it was almost the dark ages kind of a thing, or where like during the Messers, for example, there were definitely like periods of like a century where things have completely stagnated. There wasn't really any advancement or innovation and stuff like that. So that would be really cool,
Dude,
man.
and I
If
think
you
that's like
started to
game
uncover a
breaking. Yeah,
storyline
like
that like undid some of the what was thought of as lore, that would
like
be
perp
so
you
cool.
like this lore team could be so good, and they're like purposefully giving us the wrong lore. How
I love it.
crazy would that be, dude? And
Oh,
then
that
you
would be
figure
amazing.
like you go and play your lore nerd, and you're like, wait, this is
Yeah.
this is not how it is in the lore.
Yeah, you start, like, discovering little discrepancies in the
Yeah,
story
and
that, like,
then
leads you deeper down a rabbit
your
hole.
name is on the wiki page or whatever, you know, you mobbing
Yeah.
glass, and it's
And
like
at first everybody thinks you're fucking
corrected.
crazy,
Yeah.
and they're just like, "You're insane."
But you have a proof for it, and if you bring the proof,
Yeah.
like
Like, it
corrected by
very clearly says
Masocast,
here in the lore
yeah.
that that is not what happened, and then you like, yeah,
That'd be so good, bro.
that would be so good, yeah.
Uh, yeah,
I'm gonna
I
have to run
love
that
that.
by I'm gonna have to run that one by Paul.
Of course, man.
I
Like,
bet you he'd love that.
oh, he as a historian, dude. Like, of
Yeah.
course.
Well, I'll do it when I have him and Jail both on there. I'll be like,
Yeah.
check out this idea. And how cool would it
Oh,
be
you
if
can
like
take
part
the
of the
idea, bro.
like,
We came to the idea together. You don't need to credit me for it. It's fine.
well, whatever. No, it's you came up with it. I didn't.
It's
I just
what
thought
is
it was
important is
cool.
like yeah, I think yeah, it's cool idea. So whatever, whoever came up with it, but yeah, that's crazy shit. I would love that, man.
That would be so cool. Like honestly, there's the Hades system, which is like I've touched on it in a past zero effort. It's the area, it's the place where they found like a dead race, basically. They don't really know how they died. So obviously like part of like science and exploration gameplay in the Hades system will be like
Would be yeah,
trying to
figuring it
uncover
out.
like
Yeah,
what happened to them, and it would be, yeah, I could, they're already planning that. So like ultimately the idea that the history and lore that we know isn't necessarily the actual lore, that would, yeah, that's not out of the realm of possibility. I
and
think that would be
like
really
that's the
cool.
whole gameplay now because people would like go and connect. It's when you give people these things like World of
Yeah.
Warcraft has done the riddle mounts for years now. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's
No.
like holy there's a Discord with like so every couple of months there's a new riddle mount, and no one knows what the fuck is it. One of the mounts is like you turn into this like I don't know how to say it's like an octopus almost, and like five people can jump into you, and you're like bloop, bloop, you know. The
Yeah.
way to get it is you find a clue somewhere, or Blizzard gives you like the first clue, something ridiculous, like there's a grave and there's like something written on it, and then there's like this Discord with like thousands of people. When the first clue is in, they start and they spread around servers and worlds, and they're trying to figure out what's the next clue, and then like follow these leads, and it takes a month to decipher this, and then obviously they make YouTube video where you're like, okay, go do this, do that, do that, do that, do that, and then you get the fucking um you get the mount. So now everyone can get the mount for every, but like they're like just so this is what I'm saying. Like if you tell people like, but is this lore true? You're gonna have people going all over the fucking world trying to figure out what the truth is. You know what I mean? And there's like free gameplay. Holy shit! You know,
Yep.
I'd love to see that.
I'd love to see that too.
All right, we had one question.
We have one question. Hey, Micker, good to see you.
Hi, Micker.
Question is from the Micker, and he asks, "Would you accept fast travel as an alternative to quantum travel if it were balanced by a cost or risk?" Didn't we actually talk
We
about
talked
this
about
last
this
week?
last week. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
And we agreed, we can answer the question anyways.
Yeah.
We agreed that we'd be okay with it
Some stipulations. Yeah.
under certain rules.
Like I
Where
think I think cost and risk should be a factor. And like I know that you weren't necessarily on board with the idea that like your character would be physicalized
yes.
and actually like in the universe kind of like subjecting yourself to risk. But I still think like if you're going to try to fast travel to or through a risky system, I think there should be some sort of risk.
I just think that fast travel should not allow. So you should, like, to put it this way, I'd be okay with fast travel for cost, and
Mm,
the thing is, you would have to go through save systems, which would potentially extend, the time, because fast travel still can be time gated, right? It's like we talk about, like if it's like a prison where you're gonna be there in 10 minutes or whatever, so you
yeah.
can go prep lunch or whatever the fuck, and
Yeah.
but then if you're going to a certain place, there must be like the furthest possible location where you can get, and then the how do we call that, public transportation, whatever the fuck it's called, cannot take you into Pyro, because
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
to land there, but you can land on Terra, or in Stanton, and then you can go from there, which is not that far away, for a price. Obviously, and it needs to be more expensive than just going there yourself, right? Because you're
Yeah.
wasting time. But physicalizing your character, like, I would just rather them, because like in EVE Online, where you're like jumping through the gates, you can like set up your route to be like through the green systems across the board, but then you have to like do like 75 jumps. But if you want to make shortcuts, you can do it in like 7 jumps, but you have to go through like red systems, and
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no security. So if you're like having a public transportation, like a liner taking you from point A to point B, and you're not like wasting this time, then I would say it would have to go through like green systems or whatever.
Yeah. I can't remember what we decided as far as like as far as the speed of it because like in a way like in a way I think it would kind of detract from the scale of the universe if you could like just instant travel but pay a lot of money. But
Well, we opened this
I don't
whole
know.
Pandora's box of like ghosting, or however they call it, and like
Agent
the
sniffing, yeah,
agents
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Well, that's
Yeah,
something they've actually talked about,
I
right?
know, I
But
know, but that's how we were talking about then, and we didn't. I don't think we actually came to a conclusion, because
yeah,
it's more like how we feel about it, and because it does not exist in the game right now. But yeah, the other thing is, in the alpha, yeah, just give me fast travel, man, and add
yeah.
elevators to that. Just give me teleports. Give me, I don't care. We're testing the game. You want me to visit Microtech? Yeah, give me fast travel. You know what I mean?
I do really like the idea of being able to do it from the website though. And this is something that I've kind of like I think it's actually been discussed by a few content creators like a few times is like if your org needs you to help man like a critical station in a mission or whatever, it would be nice to be able to like just get that message via like org chat and then be like, all right, well, I'm at work right now, but I'll just go on the website and I'll just set my player to go travel, yeah, via the phone or whatever,
I would be
and
really surprised if we don't have a phone app. Like
and then I'll log in and I'll be there. You know what I mean? Like so it's not like I get home from work and then I have to go on and then fly fucking 2 hours, to get to the system where I'm needed or whatever. It's just like, like I could just basically do it online, pay some UEC and
no, no.
and then
Listen,
I log on there or something like that.
let me blow your mind.
Oh my god, are you gonna say they're gonna monetize this?
No, no.
Okay.
You know how like Pokemon Go, you like catch or whatever those games, you catch something. I don't play these games by the way, but like I know how it works. You like
Oh,
catch something
Pokemon
and
Go? Yeah.
to level it up, you have to like walk around. So the game
Yeah.
basically pushes you into
Yeah.
physical activity. What if you
I played
can?
Pokemon Go with my wife and my
There you go.
partner.
No, I don't. I don't
Yeah.
think it's better or anything. I just don't. I just know how it works. I'm not playing it. Yeah. But
Yeah.
like, how about if you like walking around or physical activity gives you travel points in game? Oh my god,
Oh, you're gonna piss a lot of space dads off.
bro! The space dads need to move around as well, brother. Like they, you
Yeah,
know.
it's true. It's true. But it's America, and I have the freedom to not do that or something.
Oh, you
I don't
don't
know.
have to. You can just fly, man. That's fine. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I'm kidding, but like,
something. There
it
has to
would
be
be,
some sort of
that'd be
like there
cool.
has to be some sort of fast travel though.
See, makers
If the
got it. Like,
universe is too big, and and like if you ever want multi crew to happen, you're gonna have to facilitate it somehow.
yeah, no, I agree. It just need to be creative and reasonable, and I'm okay with it. It's a game, dude. It's a game. We're not
Yeah,
playing Second Life. We're playing Star Citizen.
exactly. Yeah,
And it needs to be game. And if we are doing stuff like that, it just needs to make sense and be explained. And yeah, it needs to be reasonable. And obviously, not everyone's gonna love it. Maybe I'm not gonna like it or whatever. But you'll never please everyone, so they need the vision for this. And I'd be okay.
yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with that.
You know what? And like I think ultimately, I think I'd even be okay with instant travel if it just basically cost a fortune, so that people weren't able to do it
Because you
all
had
the
to spend
time.
that, or you can buy Alpha UC.
You just had to get that jab in there, didn't you?
Yep. The space dads can spend their
Yeah, they
hard-earned
can
money.
ruin the game by buying the
You don't
ability to
have to
hop
stay
around
fit.
however they want.
You can spend your real life earned money.
Yeah.
Baker says you can hook it up on stationary bike, and
Whoa, whoa,
they're like,
whoa, Chegg! You're reading from chat.
well, yeah, we're answering questions. No.
That's not a question.
But you know what's happening now? You need to call this one, and we're 3 hours 36 minutes in, which is
Nice. Okay, that's a good. That's not
yeah,
our insane levels, which
nah,
is good. Okay, well, that was the last question.
yep.
So thanks everybody for hanging out. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please throw us a like and a subscribe if you like what we're doing here. We're a small channel. We're just doing this for fun, but it is fun to see the numbers tick up a little bit. Um,
Which they
yeah,
do, and it
and
feels
if
good,
you
man.
have anything that had you yelling at the screen or want to make some comments, feel free to drop them below. We usually have some pretty good conversations going on in our comment sections, and yeah.
Thank you for being here with us for this long. Oh, there is one thing that I want to mention. I'm looking into potentially having us on other platforms, such
Oh yeah,
as
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
such as Spotify and maybe Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. So we'll see about that. We got another question sneaked in, man. Like, let's
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
a bit late to the party, but since it's Delicia, I mean, I gotta
Okay,
respect
it's
that.
Dell. We'll answer it.
So it says, oh, go for
Dell
it, go.
says last second. Or sorry, did you want to say
No,
something?
no, go, read it.
Oh, Dell says last second question slipping in here just before we call it. Star Trek teleportation or blah, 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 excuse me. The Star Trek
I should have done it.
teleportation argument posits that it entirely breaks down your molecules, basically destroying your original self, and creates a new version of you on the other side. That's how their
Yeah.
transporters work. What if the risk would be errors or mutation introduced in this new version? Oh,
Fuck
so you're talking
yeah.
about like if there was an instantaneous fast travel,
Yeah. So quantum physics
would you be
basically,
mutated?
and then you end up
Um,
with like legs turned around, and then you have to use because we have prosthetics in the game like that. So the way the Star Citizen works right now, well, not right now, but like what the plan is, like you don't really die. They can like almost like resurrect you and put
reclone
you
you.
back to
Yeah.
put you back together. But then if the damage to your tissue or whatever neural system or whatever the fuck is too high, then you might have prosthetics instead. So you might have like a peg leg. Well, I wish. Maybe Drake prosthetics are wooden, you know what
Dude,
I mean?
look at the chick on Delamar, the mining chick. She had a prosthetic leg,
Oh,
basically a
well,
peg leg.
yeah, but no, but I want like a real wooden peg leg, you know?
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so prosthetics. So that'd be fucking amazing. Like, there's your risk that I'm willing to go for because it's like, physicalizing my character in game. I'm not up for that. But like
I'm
losing
gonna
one
have
of
to
your
burst your
lives,
bubble
dude.
here.
That'd be interesting.
I'm gonna have to burst your bubble here. They've like absolutely said that they don't want teleportation in Star Citizen.
No, but
It's not a
fast
thing.
travel, fast travel. She's talking about like,
Yeah. But even then,
oh,
like
because the teleportation is not really happening. It's
yeah,
the fast travel.
it's not a thing, unfortunately. But
Dang it,
yeah,
Dell. Good idea. I salute to that. I love it.
yeah. It also would have to have like direct energy to matter um technology. So that's another thing they don't really have in Star Citizen. Because that's it, right? Like all matter at its very base is just basically energy that's interacting with a particular field so that it starts kind of like becoming like exhibiting the properties of matter. That's why like when we smash things together in the Hadron Super Collider, they list like how many giga electron volts a particle is, and that's because that's basically how much energy is released by destroying it. So basically, in order to like teleport things the way that they do in Star Trek, one, like you said, they basically just atomize something, and then they basically take that energy, that pattern, send it to the other ship via faster than light communications, and then reassemble it there. Based on so it's basically a colossal amount of energy, basically being forced into very specific patterns, so that it basically rebuilds your atoms from pure energy. Like at that point, which is that's a really far future tech. That's definitely not something that
And
that they have
and
in
you
Star
thought this
Citizen.
is a simple question, Dell.
I don't think she did.
No, I don't think she
That
expected this this amount of five
yeah.
heading, All right. On that note,
Okay,
thank
yeah,
you
that's enough.
everyone for being here. Have a great rest of your day and week, and stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you on Wednesday unless if something happens.
Unless I die again.
Don't die, okay? Don't die. Maybe in Valheim, but not in real life.
Yeah,
Take
okay.
care. Have fun. Bye bye.
Bye.